Hey, what's up, my fellow cinephiles, film crew, film fan? Thank you for joining. I'm Jay Feezy, and this is what is this? That one movie, Star Wars Prequel Trilogy on Feezys Media. So thank you for joining. Thank you for tuning in or clicking in, and if you're catching on the replay, appreciate that. Thank you for coming back and seeing what seeing what we have to say about this trilogy of prequels here, or prequel trilogy. I'm trying to figure out a way to say that didn't work, but yeah. Thank you for joining. This kind of following suit from the original Star Wars trilogy discussion that we had on a previous episode. So if you missed that, of course, I'll put that link in the description below, and or you can catch it on the cards here at the end of this stream. I'll add it as one of the cards there, so go back and check that out. But yes, of course, episode 1, 2, and 3 we're going to cover today. We're going to go in that order. Get my thoughts, my panelist thoughts, and just have a discussion about what we our opinions and what we think about those 3 movies. So with that, we got, like I said, we got 3 movies to cover. So we'll go ahead and get started here in a second. But before I do that, let me bring in my panelists I got with me today on this stream. Welcome back, TheOneAdamTwelve and Uncle Moose. Moose, gentlemen, how we doing?
Buddies, big gang.
Commander Feezy, execute Order 66.
Yeah.
We shall hate Jar Jar. We hate Jar Jar. We shall hate
Adam,
Jar Jar.
speaking of Order 66, Adam here's, I noticed they're backstage. He showed off, he's rocking his Order 66 hat. Awesome. Yeah, it's cool. I didn't notice that at first. It has like that Route 66, right? It's a play on Route 66.
Yeah, I got this. Actually, I got this at the Boston Fan Expo this past summer from
nice.
Star Wars Theory, YouTuber and social media guy. He sells lightsabers.
Oh, okay.
So he was there. He had a booth, and I got it from him.
Are you going back again
nice.
next year? Or this year?
We might, if depending on who the guests are.
Let
I
me
think
know.
the
I'll try to
Hobbits-
meet up
yeah,
with you. You know?
Yeah,
I mean, that's my
absolutely.
area.
I know.
You know?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Nice, yeah. How you doing, Moose?
Well, I'm doing great. I had my little coffee date earlier. You know, nothing to
Oh,
do with
yeah.
Star Wars, but, you know.
Yeah, we'll. I'm curious to see after the stream how that went backstage. But yeah, I noticed you're repping the blue here, so you're on the light side today on this
It's a
discussion.
nice blue.
Yeah,
I'm a Gungan. This is Gungan blue, I guess.
Gungan blue, nice. Yeah, I like that. I like that touch there. All right, gentlemen. Well, with that, are you ready to discuss some Star Wars here?
Do
Why
it.
not? What else is there
Do
to
it.
do besides that?
Yeah, I know, right? That's what we're here for, right? Well, let's get into it. Okay, here we go. So first up, of course, in the order, you got to start at the beginning. Episode 1. So the Phantom Menace, released in 1999. Like people were, that's the year people were partying here. Written and directed by George Lucas, the man himself. Since I think this is the first one he came back to since Episode 4, A New Hope, right? And of course, you guys
Directing, yeah.
Correct me as I go along here. So in case I kind of misquote anything, get information incorrect. But yeah, Phantom Menace. I went back and rewatched this one in preparation for this. Of course, I had seen them before. Overall, I got to say right off the bat, one of my least favorite of the prequels for sure. And I don't know, I have to go back. It's been a minute since I've seen the sequel trilogy, so I'm not sure how this would compare to that. Definitely, there's a couple of scenes in there. Of course, the pod racing scene and the Duel of Fates, Darth Maul versus the 2 Jedi, Obi and Qui-Gon. I always go back to, if nothing else. But yeah, man, I gotta say, going back, I'm not really into political themed media, so movies or TV shows. So I'm not the biggest fan of it, depending on how well it's written. There have been some that, because either they mix some other elements of it, or they tie it in with some other aspect, like Winter Soldier, for example. Captain America: Winter Soldier. I know a lot of people classify that as like a action adventure political thriller, and that actually, I love that movie, and so that's an example of a good mix of some political themes mixed in with action adventure. So stuff like that I can do, but honestly, like this one for me, one of the things that killed it is just it was really political heavy in the themes and the nature. And I get it, they kind of are exploring and trying to kind of tell a story of how this whole overall galactic existence is kind of coexisting, and how they have some sort of like their laws and regulations. But yeah, that was one of the things that just didn't appeal to me overall. It's just that it was really focused on that. And then just like a lot of others, Jar Jar and Anakin, just even going back, man, it was just really cringy. I'm not gonna lie, and dare I say this might be a controversial take, but the moments that those came either those characters, came on, their acting and their dialogue, it had me on the same cringe level as some of the scenes in Acolyte. Not the show in general. I'm not comparing the whole movie Phantom Menace to Acolyte, but there were some moments in Acolyte where I was like, oh, I was kind of cringy. I'm not gonna lie, and so I felt that here too. And so I get why a lot of people were annoyed with Jar Jar and Anakin, but I will say this now, that they did not deserve all the hate off screen that they received. Like, no matter how bad a movie is, no matter how,
100%.
Say what you will about the characters, the writing, or whatever, but at the end of the day, they're all doing their job and they're kind of following along with the guidance that they're given. And so, but outside of that, these people have their actual lives, and so they're, especially Anakin, remind me of the young actor's name again.
Jake Lloyd.
Thank you, Jake Lloyd. Yes, yeah. As a kid, no kid should have to endure and go through that. And from what I understand, it really affected him. But I won't get too much in that. But still, yeah, I just want to definitely say, like, he didn't deserve. Neither did the voice.
Ahmed Best.
Ahmed Best. Thank you, Ahmed Best. Neither of them should have received all that hate they did, and a lot of people. It just blows my mind how just people aren't able to.
They're just actors. He's been performing the job, but Jake Lloyd's not an actor much. He never did anything before that or after that, brother. I know.
Yeah.
Especially after it, it kind of like ruined his career. I guess I don't really know.
Exactly. Yeah. But hold on. Let me finish, Moose, and I'll come back to you. But yeah. So it wasn't called for, and it just people separating. I know we've seen that in other examples as well. So, but that aside, whatever was approved or the guidance they received, it was not. I didn't agree with, and yeah, it just it really killed the movie for me every time Jar Jar came on. Even to this day, I go back and I still can't get over, the voice acting and Anakin, the acting on that. But yeah, to like what Moose was touching on, they were just following. I'm presume George Lucas's guidance and his direction on there, so not entirely following the writing as well too, right? So I can't fault him for that, definitely, but. So overall, yeah, I'll pause there. Let me jump over to Moose. Before I do that, though, let me go ahead and bring in my other panelist just joining us here. Was having some tech issues, but hopefully he's good now. So we got Blu Tattu. Blue, can you hear us?
Hey, Blue.
Hey, Blue.
Can you hear me?
All right. Yep,
we can hear you.
Awesome. Oh, yeah, sorry. I was having trouble with the dang permissions, and apparently you can't have chat bubbles over Chrome, and it was just a freaking mess. So... yeah, sorry I'm late.
All right. No worries, but glad you got it sorted out and you're here now. But yeah, you're coming in clear. Video, audio are good. So yeah, thanks, man. We'll go ahead and Moose, sorry, you were saying, go ahead.
Coming back.
Okay.
Yeah,
if you need some... Go ahead.
I mean, the problem with, Lucas told us what was going to happen, how bad it was going to be, before the movie came out, it's going to be kind of boring, the first movie, like in the series, it's not really much good. A lot of things happening, it's not so much that it was, the storyline, but the execution of it all, the conception of it all. Like, first of all, I think they should have, I was like, every time after I saw it, I go, how do you fix that? And they said, that was my first reaction after seeing it. Like, how did we fix that? They should have just started with a battle of Naboo, like an invasion of Naboo, by the Trade Federation or something like that, and dealt with it from there. That's some action, because it kind of worms its way to a beginning, and then the droidicas, and they had the little battle there with droidicas, and that came off like a cipher. There's not much of a battle there. They try to open up the bridge, and they couldn't get in. And they just ran away, and they go meet some Gungans,
Yeah.
And the Gungans, first of all, they brought Jar Jar in. That is like the worst kind of writing, to put, make Jar Jar so stupid. How about making a character that's clever, smart? That's harder to do. To make him sound like they got lucky. That's it. It's just like pure luck. Anything happened, okay? And they fell upon the Gungans, and they get these ships and they let them sneak back into the city, it's just bad writing. I mean, you got to look at Lucas. This is his first directing job in how many years? Like 23 years or something like that. That he before he stopped directing after the first movie. But he's not really that much of a director. If you look if you look, I mean, look at THX 1138, his first movie, the student movie and everything. I mean, they were all kind of like wooden anyway. But that was the whole point. That was a fallback plan, that they were all wooden. You know, they didn't have to really do it. He didn't get any emotion out of it. There's like no emotion for the most part. It's just mostly stupidity. You know. And then I don't know what he was thinking about midi-chlorians. Like, what are you talking about? You know, why do you need midi-chlorians like that? You know, what the Force is like, you need some kind of genetic explanation for it? The Force, like, come on, you know. I mean, I can't believe. I mean, I waited 22 years to see another. You know, from Star Wars to the episode whatever 1 now. You know, beginning really with episode 4. You know, but. And you were like, oh, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great, you know. And you can't recapture the past. He's not that much of a director, and he shows it, and not much of a screenwriter. I mean, he kind of like he needed almost like some exercise. He needed to do something before this. He should have done another bunch of movies before that in the '90s. Not even related to Star Wars, just anything. You know, just get his feet wet. You know, he was like almost going like he was like green as grass. It seemed like he was a first time director all over again in episode 1.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, maybe if we would have had like just shake off the rust and to get back in. And
he was a producer at most, an executive producer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, behind the scenes, yeah, for sure. Yeah, Adam, I know you're more of a into political themed media than I am, but what were your thoughts on this one, episode 1?
Well, let me just say that everything that you said and Moose said, I'm going to put this in Star Wars parlance. Everything you said both of you guys said is true from a certain point of view.
There it is.
I agree with everything both. In all seriousness, I agree with everything both you guys said. But I'm gonna express a different point of view. But before I get to that other point of view, let me just say that as someone who's grew up with the original trilogy, saw the original trilogy in theaters, there's not a movie that I anticipated more in my life before since turn my ringer off here other than episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And I remember going online when the infancy of internet, trying to find spoilers about the movie and what's going to happen. And I was consumed with it. And then I remember going, to the theater, and I bought tickets, that first showing at midnight when it went on sale, when it was released in May of 1999. And I got tickets for the following few days. And I think I saw this movie in the theater 21 times. I don't think I've ever seen a movie 21 times. I would go like every week to go see it because it played for a long time.
Wow.
So my reactions are kind of like I saw it and like, oh, first of all, the pod race scene was very cool. The first couple of times I saw it. Now I kind of watch it again. It's kind of boring to me, actually.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
I mean, it's cool, but it's not like, I don't know.
It doesn't hold up to you?
It doesn't hold up as strongly.
Gotcha.
Of course the lightsaber battle between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan is one of the best lightsaber duels in all the films. Great. The music by John Williams, amazing. Even like the very end scene when it seems like the heroes are triumphant, but that Palpatine has started his ascension to become the Emperor, and they have that triumphant music. If John Williams, it's just John Williams' Emperor's theme, but like in a different key. So I thought like that was brilliant. But yeah, I think my reaction's like you. Like I first saw it, I'm like, yo, what's up with this Jar Jar? With the voice and Anakin Skywalker in this movie. Again, when I saw this, I was like 23, 24. So I was looking more for, as an OG fan, like that same year the first Matrix came out. And I think a lot of us wanted, we got older, but I felt like Star Wars didn't grow up with me. And I wanted the type of action scenes that I saw in the Matrix. And maybe that was one of the problems that, some fans had with it, myself included. But I just didn't vibe with that, that creative decision to make Anakin Skywalker a kid, and again, no fault of Jake Lloyd. I just think, as Moose pointed out, Lucas isn't the best director for acting. He's not an actor's director. He doesn't try to elicit the best performances from his actors. So, I kept going to the theater over and over again because it's like, well, it's new Star Wars, and maybe I'm seeing this wrong. Maybe I need to keep seeing it over and over again. And I still, I kind of like had for many years a love and hate relationship with it. I thought, well, why? Maybe it wasn't so much the Jar Jar's character, but maybe they should have done subtitles and had like a creature voice for Jar Jar. And I don't know. I had a love-hate relationships for a number of years. But here's where I talked about the different point of view. When we had our daughter and she was old enough to watch movies, the first movie we actually took her to was a re-release. It was a 3D re-release back when 3D was a big thing of Episode 1. And since then, this is like, we just saw they had the 25th anniversary re-release back in 2024, and she saw it again, and this is like her favorite. This and Episode 3 are her favorite Star Wars movies. She loves the original trilogy. She loves it more than the original trilogy. So I see it from, and she loves Jar Jar and she loves little Anakin. So if I'm seeing it from my kid's point of view, and it's that's how I'm like, oh, okay. It's hard to hate it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'll come back to that because maybe I don't want to take anything. I want to leave some meat on the bone here for Blue. But yeah, Blu Tattu, what are your thoughts here on Episode 1? Did you like it overall, or would you agree with what all we've said so far?
I still like it. I think it's good. I can complain about Jar Jar because when I first watched it, I hated Jar Jar. I thought it was annoying as hell, you don't attack actors for a role that they get paid to do, but yeah, as the first CG character, I thought it was great. Looking back at it, it's a little wonky CG wise, but overall, I think I still dig it. But like you were saying, there's a couple cringe moments. As for the beginning, I think it was good. They were supposed to have a meeting with the Trade Federation, and then it just kind of went sour. And they sent Jedis to negotiate and stuff, because they want to do it forcefully. But I thought it was good. I do think that George Lucas needed to probably do something before this. He's a great story guy, but as a dialogue person, that's why he had Spielberg direct all of his stuff. So, but you can't argue with the fights that they had, the Obi-Wan and Darth Maul. Just fantastic. And shout out to Nick Gillard because he did all the stunt coordinating. I don't know why they don't use him today because he did the whole prequel trilogy and all of it was fantastic. So yeah,
what was his name again? I didn't.
Nick Gillard.
Nick Gillard. Okay, yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
I
and
don't think I knew that.
He hangs out with Star Wars Theory now. Star Wars Theory, looked him up and stuff like that, and they were hanging out. I think they made like lightsabers now or something like that. So.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't. I didn't realize that was a stunt coordinator. I probably should have looked into that because I agree. Like the fight scenes in here were awesome. Yeah, sorry. You have anything else?
Oh, yeah. And the that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so Dahlia Meyer is asking, again, probably agrees with a lot of us too, that the only thing about Annie, or annoyed him when it was someone with little Annie. Yeah, again, it's just, and to what I didn't know George Lucas, like his strengths and weaknesses. So I didn't know of him that well. Like I didn't, as far as like what type of director he was, but yeah, it just seems like he just allowed certain things to go on, or he didn't really provide. So the fact that you guys say he's not like a character's director or actor's director or a character director, yeah, I can totally see that now. I didn't realize that was what he was classified as, but yeah, I can. Now that you say that, I can definitely see that. So it's just like, damn, man, there's like one moment in particular, like, no matter, that's just ingrained, it lives rent free in my head as far as like cringeworthiness is that scene, and I didn't have a chance to pull up like either a shot or the video of it, but right after he wins the pod race, right? And, you know, his friends are by his side. That little Greedo looking guy, or maybe I don't think we've ever confirmed if that was Greedo or not. But him and that other boy, you know, Anakin crosses the finish line, and then they're all cheering and shouting and jumping and yay! And you see that one other kid kind of put his hands up like he was going to go for a high five, but it was just all like confused and lost, and he didn't know what to do. It was just so cringy and funny. But he's like, yay! And he was kind of like doing these things. Oh man, I just, every time I see that, I laugh. It's just like that. Yeah, that, I think that right there probably like sums it up. It's just, oh man, yeah, not. But yeah, was that that? I just realized that's something I never confirmed. Was that supposed to be a little Greedo, or no? Just like the same race, same species, I should say.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Yeah, I just realized I never went back. I always had that question, but it's just like I kept forgetting, and even to this day, I forgot to go look into that. But
They really matter.
yeah, no, yeah, you're right. No, I'm just wondering, because if it was, you know, that just would have had another cool like kind of backstory, like something else that they could potentially go on. And but yeah, if it was just look like same species, and then yeah, it doesn't matter. You're right.
They should have had an older Han too, like a teenage Han or something like that. You know,
yeah,
why not
yeah, that's
throw
where Solo
everybody
comes in.
You know, give some Easter egg somewhere, hide an Easter egg. You know, give you some hope. Because they didn't give you much hope in the Phantom Menace. You know, I mean, might as well call it, a new hope. How about a hope wasted or whatever it was? You know, they could have called it that.
Burn.
You know, like the opportunity. How about opportunity wasted in the Phantom Menace? You know, I mean, because they
were trying to expand the world. I think, you know. I mean, they could have done callbacks, but like, I mean, it was way before that time too. So.
Yeah, but it's like, you're right. So they're all so wooden. I mean, no one seems natural. It all seems so forced. Even like Padme as a queen, you know, Queen Amidala. She's so wooden. She doesn't become like herself until she takes that makeup off. You know, in those scenes. You know, like that's not really her. I mean, I don't know how many movies she made before Phantom Menace. I know she made, you know, Leon the Professional, and she's great in that. You know, but she's I don't know how many years earlier that was. You know, this is 99. I got to go look up Leon the Professional, what year that came out. But you know, she's awesome in that. I love her in that. You know, but was that the only other movie she did before, you know, Phantom Menace? I don't remember. I have to go look her up. I mean, I didn't do enough homework. Sorry, Feezy. But
no, it's all right.
Well, Natalie Portman won the Oscar, so you know, for
the Professional.
No, not for The Professional. For Black Swan. So
she's a
great actress. You know, I think.
Yeah. Well, she is a great actor, but she was very young. You know, this is like her this is her biggest movie. I mean, Leon the Professional. She had Luc Besson. Okay, now he's a director for people. I mean, look how. Did you ever see Leon the Professional or Leon? I mean, they call it The Professional. I think when it came out originally.
Yeah, it's been a minute, but that was I know that was before this one. So she was.
How about Gary Oldman in The Professional? That part he played in that. That is like, you know, blow your mind how good that was, you know. But all I can see is, you know, he tell them, who should we, you know, round everybody up. Who should we round up? He goes, everyone. You know, like
did he?
You know, I mean, that was like unbelievable. That's because that's Luc Besson, you know, and he's great. I've seen a whole bunch of other action movies he's done. Imagine if he directed, you know, Phantom Menace. How much more fun that would have been. You know,
unfortunately, we got George Lucas though. But let me go to Adam. Adam was going to say something. Go ahead, Adam.
I don't know if I apologize. I call for my boss here, but I don't know if you read Beam's while I was away. If you read Beam's comments, and I totally agree with what Beam is saying, because, you know, for me, you know, as much as, you know, I mentioned a couple things I initially didn't like, still the whole, you know, and this is where nostalgia plays in, of course. But the memories of lining up and the excitement, and you know, I definitely agree, and that's why I still love this movie. You know, in addition to like the second it's just interesting when you have a kid and your kid watches the movie and it has a different perspective, and you look at it, I'm like, oh, okay, I could see that.
Yeah.
But for me, this will always have a special place because I think of also, and us in the collecting hobby. I remember going to Midnight Madness when the toys went on sale. I was at the KB Toys. I lived in Boston at the time, the city, and I went to the KB Toys on which is obviously no longer there, on Harvard Street in Brookline, and to line up to get the figures. And then we went to the Toys R Us in Framingham the next day to try to get whatever I missed that they didn't have. Like, and the one I was really looking for was like the Hasbro Darth Maul on the speeder bike. Like, I really wanted that figure.
Oh.
So I just a lot of great, to me. I don't like, my first thoughts aren't like negative or anything like that. It's always very like warm and positive, and how it had brought Star Wars back into the public consciousness. So, and you mentioned about the political thing. I don't think I addressed that. Yeah, I liked how it's set up. Like, to me, one of the MVPs of the prequel trilogy is actually Ian McDiarmid, who plays Palpatine. I think he's one of the best villains of all time, and he does a great job of being this, smarmy leader, and he connives his way to become Chancellor in this film.
Yep.
And that's great.
Yeah. So a couple of things I want to touch on, going back to what Moose was saying about, overall, I kind of not really any emotion. Again, I know I've touched on this multiple times. That just goes back to like the guidance they were getting from George Lucas, or the lack thereof. But Queen Amidala, though, I kind of give as a pass, because I feel like that's how her character was written. She's just like, or where she is, like that's just her demeanor in general as like a queen. I'm guessing. I don't know. She just is meant to be like kind of emotionless. So that for some reason I just understood that. So I gave her a pass on that. So that didn't bother me. But then going back to what you were just touching on, Adam, and you mentioned this earlier, and then to Beam's point here, Beam was mentioning that's just one of his great memories, and this movie holds up for him because he got to line up to the ticket booth to see this, and it may make him a little biased. And so I definitely understand that. And to what Adam was saying, right, there's a generation that grew up with this movie, and that's always going to be the case for every generation, right? They have their own set of movies, their own TV shows, their own action figures, or whatever it is, music that they all grew up with, and that's always going to be the case. It's like a never-ending cycle. So I can definitely see it from that point. Batman and Robin too. I know a lot of people, for an older generation, don't like that movie, but there is a generation that does love that movie for even acknowledging that it is bad, right? And so I can see the same thing. Not to say that this is bad, but I'm just saying there's a generation of people who, despite what the critiques that we may have, but they, bias included, that this is one of their favorite movies, if not their favorite. Like you said, Adam, your daughter, this is like her favorite trilogy, and that makes sense. Right? She's obviously younger, so she grew up with these this trio of movies here. But Blue, it sounded like you were going to add something to that.
To beat a dead horse on Amidala's makeup, but like when she's as a queen, she's supposed to be stoic and strong, for her people, and that's why she's constantly speaking in that manner. So that's, and then while she's not in that, she gets to be the assistant or whatever for the queen, and she can be a little bit more emotional and playful and stuff like that. So
it's like the Queen Elizabeth, the Queen of England. She would speak very stilted a lot of times when she addressed the public. But if you ever watch like The Crown or something, I mean, obviously that's a fictionalized series, but I'm sure it's based in some truth. She speaks normally, and when she's around, she's not in the spotlight. She's just speaking to her family or her immediate staff.
I agree. I can see that. Not like the Queen Elizabeth thing aspect, but that similarity that you're saying, I can definitely see that here. So a couple of things when I went back and watched the movie recently, to kind of refresh my memory, I was paying more close attention to certain things and taking notes. And there were some things that I didn't catch before, like some questions that popped up as I was watching it that I guess I didn't really occur to me. So one of them is that you know, how obviously, as we know now, Palpatine / Darth Sidious. Well, Palpatine was Darth Sidious behind the scenes and, you know, manipulating everything. And this is, you know, shows where this all started. We got a taste of that in Return of the Jedi. You know, I touched on that when we discussed in the original trilogy discussion, how, you know, Palpatine coordinated and organized everything in Return of the Jedi towards the end, and he reveals that. So we got a taste of that. But now here we're seeing his long term goal, his long game basically is start to set up here with Episode 1. And so, like what Blue was saying, and I agree. This movie establishes kind of all that, and so I get it from that aspect. But it was just again a little too much of the political theme for me, in my opinion. But anyways, going back to what I was saying, I wonder if Palpatine, being strong with the dark side of the Force, if he felt Anakin's presence when they first met, when Anakin arrived at Coruscant, when Qui-Gon brought him. You know, they kind of were introduced, and he walked by him. So I wonder if Sidious kind of felt how powerful he was, like Qui-Gon, or like he was strong with the Force, or if he already knew ahead of time, kind of like what if he had like some sort of sense. I know it's getting deep. It's not mentioned in the film, but we just wanted to. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Do you think like Palpatine kind of felt his presence, or how strong he was when they first met?
Well, it would have been a good plot point if it was. You know, if it was more overt. If it wasn't overt enough, like his eyes opened up, like holy cow,
Yeah.
like you know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what kind of ruined it a little bit? You know, though Palpatine and Sidious are the same people. You know,
Right.
and we already knew who played, Emperor Palpatine in Return of the Jedi, and it's the same actor coming back. So, like, you know, eventually the one's going to be revealed. It's almost something like was given away. Like maybe they should have had two different actors, you know, playing the part, you know, and
Yeah.
so just to cover it up, like he evolved, you know, he turned into. He is definitely Sidious, okay,
Right.
but he was like he could have like done some kind of Sith trick that he could disguise his face and
Yeah.
to be a different
Yeah.
actor. You know, like a good-looking guy. You know, like someone like you, Feezy. You know, it would have been you, and you turned into Sidious.
Me, wow.
You know, and you know, I mean, in terms of like the experience of Star Wars, I was all in. I was ready to do, because I remember getting in line 2 weeks before the movie opened. I don't know when it was, we wanted to go to the midnight showing, a Thursday night. You know, at midnight. You know, Friday morning, Thursday night, midnight showing to see it. Me and my buddy. You know, so I took off from work or something like that, and I got there. You know, I got in line like hours earlier so you can I wanted to get tickets, and
Yeah.
I think there was already people there in line waiting to get tickets, and
Yeah,
so it was like a festival or something like that, waiting in line to get the tickets for the first showing. We got the tickets, luckily, and that was the day you still had to get there on the night of the showing in line early, because there was no reserved seatings back in 1999.
Yeah.
They didn't have
Yep.
that. So and the first time I saw that was like 2008 or something like that. I saw that happen, and then out of the country. They didn't do that till the teens around here. But so then, now I forget what day it was. If I bought toys before the movie came out, because everyone was psyched for the Darth Maul character, because he was so good looking. He was so unique looking. He was awesome. He looked like the devil himself. Okay, and everybody wanted him, and so they had, and there was a drop on a Monday, and there was a Toys R Us I went to at midnight, and I got there like 4, 5, 6, I forget, I don't remember, it was 6 hours early, and I just sat in my car waiting. I was number one in line, and I got my picture in the paper, and I got
nice.
I talked to him. I think they interviewed me and my buddy. We get a little blurb about us in the page, in the thing, because there was so many people in line after that, and it was a frenzy going inside. I don't know if they were letting us in a little bit at a time, but I mean, I filled up a shopping cart full of action figures. It was unbelievable. That was the best you could do back then. We were ecstatic, because we had already, like the year before, and a couple of years before, Lucas brought back his action figures. He opened the line. He started merchandising again. En masse.
Cash in,
because he didn't want because his divorce settlement had ended, and now he gets to keep all the money. He didn't have to split it with Marsha. Marsha, you're not. So that's why he held everything back. I'm not
that was a mess.
That's why there was no re-releases before. Before the thing. That's why you never really saw it, unless it was like a second run crappy print that you found in a movie theater, like a second run, a third run movie theater, You know.
Yeah, that was.
So I
nice.
mean,
But going back
I
to
was
the question
all
though,
in on
Moose.
Star Wars. I was
Going
like,
back to the question though, Moose. Hold on. Going back to the question. Do you think Palpatine and Palpatine felt Anakin's presence though when they met and crossed paths?
he should have. If he didn't, he
Oh,
should.
Should have. Yeah.
He definitely did, because he at the end there, when he sees Anakin, he says, and we'll follow your something like thing
Yeah.
with great interest. We'll follow you with great interest.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
and like a little wink there.
Yeah.
100%. But
Yeah. That's
I
what
think
I was. Go ahead. Sorry.
well, this goes back to episode 3 and a line that I don't know if you want to go, because I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit here. But when they're in the opera house, which is one of the greatest, that's one of the great scenes I think in the whole prequel trilogy, and Palpatine is there with Anakin, and he starts talking about you talk about his master. He even learned how to make the midichlorians, like create life, and he looks at Anakin. I don't know. I thought that's somehow
He knows. Yeah.
him or his master had a role in Shmi Skywalker's, virgin birth.
Yeah, and actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually was one of the things I pointed out. But we'll come back to that in episode 2. But yeah, I don't know, Blue. What do you think? Do you think Palpatine knew? He felt Anakin's presence when they crossed paths, and how powerful he could be, or his potential?
Oh yeah, without a doubt, man. Palpatine was doing everything behind the scenes, man. He's a puppet master, controls everything.
Yeah.
And as a Sith Lord, like the Sith Lord, he definitely knew of Anakin's power. And there's even that theory that Palpatine created Anakin in Shmi.
Oh wow. Okay.
At some point, and that's how Anakin became. So, him messing with the Force and midichlorians and stuff like that.
Interesting.
So, and as for midichlorians, I think it was interesting that they kind of thought of midichlorians, because at the height of the Jedi Council, and pretty much the height of the Jedi, they would have figured out a way to kind of track the Force. You know what I mean? They would have. They got all the technology for it. They would have had, all the knowledge of the Force, pretty much by then. So as far as midichlorians go, I didn't have a problem with it, because during that time and before the fall of the Jedi, they would have known, your power level basically with all the technology that they have. So.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, because I do have I was gonna say they have archives, right? They have this whole library in the temple, basically, in the Jedi library. Was it archives, right? Jedi archives. And so yeah, you're right. There's so much information there, so I'm pretty sure they do. And I agree. I didn't have a problem with them. I know a lot of people did about the whole midichlorian aspect of it and kind of make it more scientific. But I was like, oh, okay. I mean, that, as we know, then establishes other aspects of that later on down the line. But yeah, go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I never had a problem with that, because we get very little lore actually in the original trilogy. We get some, but there's a lot of room that Lucas obviously later introduced and others introduced. But to me, I always saw it as the balance between, if just the belief in the Force is the idea of faith, and midichlorians is science. So the balance between faith and science. Yeah. And, that's the midichlorians are just a scientific way of measuring, the ability to control and be one with the Force. Yeah.
Yeah. The I guess the spiritual aspect of it, right? I guess in that measuring the spiritual aspect of it. Yeah.
Yeah. By episode. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
By episode 4, they wouldn't have had knowledge of the midichlorians. It would have been in the ancient Jedi text somewhere down the line. So that's probably, they probably didn't think of it when they were making the original trilogy. But the explanation for that is, the fall of the Jedi and the archives. They wouldn't have had that knowledge in 4, 5, and 6. So.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, right? They didn't even think they were going to get past episode 4, A New Hope, right? So they kind of just wrote it as they went along until, like, oh, damn, this is getting bigger. So we kept adding to it. So, yeah, I agree on that. Another thing, a couple other things that I noticed, I pointed out that I wanted to touch on here that, and I noticed Obi-Wan was saying to Qui-Gon, if what does he say? He has a quote where he says to him, he's like, if you just follow the code, you'd be on the Jedi Council. So that kind of like implies that, and they've mentioned it too, like Qui-Gon kind of goes off and does his own thing and what he believes is right, despite whether that kind of goes along with the Jedi Council or not. And so it seems like there's some defiance in there. And even Yoda says as much, right? He's like, Qui-Gon's defiance I sense in you. Need that you do not. And so it's like, we kind of get an idea of how Qui-Gon is, which I kind of actually respect. He's kind of, despite him being a Jedi, and then what they're supposed to do as far as work for the Senate, right? They kind of uphold the peace and kind of a little more like enforcers in a peaceful way. And when we find out later on that kind of or even the Clone Wars, sometimes that can be kind of an iffy situation. Okay, let's not make that comparison. I don't want to make that comparison there, but yeah, you're right. They're not them. But yeah, it was just they, that's its own situation. But I just thought that was kind of interesting how, and I forgot about that where, Obi-Wan mentions that, and that Qui-Gon could have been a master, but it's just he prefers to do things a little different from, or sometimes he disagrees with that Jedi Council. Some of the decisions they make. Yeah. And then, another thing, kind of going back to the writing, I know we touched on this already, but another example of like the writing like wasn't the best, and I was like, what the hell, was that Jar Jar went from being banished from the Gungan city, and I forget the name of wasn't it just Gungan City? I forgot the name of this hometown.
Oto Gunga.
Oto Gunga.
I think isn't it called like Oto Gunga or something? It's Gungan City, but Oto Gunga or something.
I'll take your word for it. I'm not sure.
Gungan
City. Yeah, you're probably right, but I never. Banished. I never. Banished. And then he explains that he was being banished for being clumsy, and he was kind of like more or less. So there's that, and then later on, Boss Nass, he just ends up making him a general of the army. So he goes from being banished because he's clumsy to being a general.
You mean Bombard General?
Yeah, Bombard General. Yeah. It was just, I was like, what the hell? Yeah, I just thought that was just like, it didn't make sense to me, but it's on par for the movie, I guess. Another thing, something else I noticed that I know others have mentioned in different contexts or just in other discussions. We see at the beginning of the movie of episode 1 of their abilities that they end up showing and utilizing is their speed run, right? They just run from the droidicas and they just get out of there, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. But we never, at least I don't remember, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, I've never seen them use that again. And throughout the rest of the movie, let alone the trilogy, I don't know, is there something that I'm forgetting there? Did I miss something?
What did they forget?
Never use it again. Their speed
run when they ran from the droidicas in the beginning, because the reason I that came back to me is because the fight during Darth Maul, right, where Qui-Gon and Qui-Gon was waiting to attack Maul, and then Obi-Wan was waiting way in the back. Had he sped run through all of that to get to them quicker, he would have been able to help Qui-Gon.
Yeah,
so I was like,
you're right.
What the hell? Yeah, where's that speed run at? Where's it at there? Come on, Obi-Wan, where are you at? So
maybe it takes too much energy and he didn't want to do it, or he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So I just thought that I don't know if they just axed that later on or what. I don't know what the deal with that speedrun thing is in general, but it's so that was for the most part. That's just I think what I got through. Just some of the points I noted out, and I will something I didn't touch on real quick is I agree about lining up, being excited and anticipating this movie after having a break for so long, and when I was younger and caught up to all the original trilogy, right, and like I learned about those and I watched those many times, and I was like, okay, now I get to see this in theaters as it comes out. So I was definitely there too, and I was excited for it. But needless to say, I was a little disappointed. But still, I'm with you guys. That was that excitement, that build up, that anticipation of a new Star Wars movie, and just being with fellow fans was a cool experience. But go ahead, Adam.
The two things I consider, we talked about Jar Jar. The voices in this movie always kind of threw me off. Like, when I saw the designs of the battle droids, I'm like, oh man, these are gonna be like the Terminators, and then they spoke. Obviously, I didn't hear them speak in the trailers, and you watch the movie and they're like, Roger, Roger. I can't even do that voice, but I'm like, what the hell? These guys aren't like these guys are pathetic.
Yeah.
And then like
Yeah.
the other voice always got me is the Nemodians, Lucy's like victory, those like
Those are the
oh
guys
my
with like
God.
the headdress
Yeah.
things and like
yeah,
or the
Trade
separatists.
Federation. Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The
Yeah.
Trade Federation
New
sound like
Gunner.
something out of a Charlie Chan movie.
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And then I guess intentionally, because that's what Lucas is known for, And I already made a rant about what I thought who Jar Jar, and everyone conceives who's Jar Jar based upon. It's a character from the 30s. His name is Stepin Fetchit. And you don't want to know about that. That's another thing, another path you don't want to go down. But I mean, Lucas mostly takes everything. I mean, look at everything. Even look how the ships, in space. You're not going to hear, you're not going to hear a ship in space sound like an aerial bomber, in World War II. But then they do. I mean, but that's how you make tension and excitement, But
Yeah.
so I mean, if they flew in the sky, it would be more natural. But in space, you're not going to hear any of that stuff. But whatever.
Yeah.
You have to. There's a whole bunch of willing suspension of disbelief. But when they got to those Gungans, this is like you figure this is the least adult oriented of all the Star Wars movies. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, he had to it was like they were just let's apply it. Let's do the massive. Let's apply to as many kids as we can because we need to build this up. That's what I think. But after that, I mean, it got a little bit darker, obviously, because that's the story got darker. But I mean, that's just totally. I mean, I think all I can see is they made these Gungans, just to make toys and Eopies and all that stuff. It had nothing to do with wasn't that exciting, like a dewback might be, and a stormtrooper, but.
Yeah, one of speaking of figures and toys and just collectibles in general, one of my fondest memories was when this movie was out. Some of you may even remember here, at least here in the States, they three fast food restaurant chains partnered together to bring cups with these toppers on them for each of the characters from the movie.
Yeah,
so it was Burger King, right? I think Taco Bell, maybe it was more than three.
Pizza Hut,
Pizza Hut,
right?
Yeah, and was there one more? I can't remember if there was one more or not. I think there was because there was, or no, maybe each one. So each one had 4. I think there was 12 total. But anyways, my dad, he encouraged me. We got 1 or 2 from one fast food restaurant, but then he encouraged me and was kind of encouraged me to collect them all. And so, we made it a point, and I think they got new one every week or something like that. And so we would call and we would go to all these fast food restaurants to make sure we got them all. And so, I ended up getting them all. And, thanks to my dad, and I was obviously younger at the time. I was still in, still in high school. And so I still have them all. A lot of the toppers are unopened. I have all the cups too.
Nice.
But obviously it's the movie didn't turn out to be that great, but still it was just a cool experience. And it's one of my early collecting experiences. So I still have those in their bags, unopened, the toppers and all the cups. And so I just wanted to touch on that. That was really memorable experience for me.
My brother had all the cans, all the cans that had the different characters on it. He had the
Pepsi cans.
Cans. Yeah.
Awesome. He still has them to this day.
No, they're gone now. Unfortunately,
Oh,
they all kind of evaporated inside the can. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, the marketing was big on this one. Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
Oh yeah.
And related to that, I don't think I've ever been as excited as when they released that first teaser trailer for episode 1.
Man.
And I remember before YouTube, it took so long to download it, watch it on the internet because I still had dial-up connection then.
Yeah.
But I remember tape. It was on Entertainment Tonight, and I set my VCR to tape it, or my parents' VCR to tape it, and I would watch that trailer over and over again, it's like the freaking Zapruder film or something. Just watching to try to find some insight into what's going on in the film.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I hear you, man. I remember that.
Yeah.
Anticipation again, building up that hype.
Yeah,
but
dude.
Overall,
that first trailer, man, was insane. The Duel of Fates.
Yeah.
Dude, it was awesome. It was way
overall,
overplayed repeatedly.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. We were excited, man. We were looking forward to it. As a lot of people, a lot of Star Wars fans were. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah,
Why not? It was
overall,
16 years. 16 years for the since the last Star Wars movie. Things didn't like that happen in those days. And there was no like
yeah, the big
if you had a sequel, you had a bunch of sequels. Okay, then they were done. That was it.
Yeah.
I mean, look, that was unusual. That like, I'll take for example like Batman and Robin. Like that killed that franchise. You realize it takes over 8 years, but this Star Wars came back after 16 years. Imagine the wait. There were things out there, but somehow they sneaked out, or that Lucas allowed, like the Dark Empire on Dark Horse. Age of the Empire, all those books. But in so nothing really. That was just minimal. So there wasn't much money in that, and Lucas wasn't losing much money. And I'm sure that's the impetus why he didn't put anything out for 16 years. Until '97 when they released Power of the Force action figures with Hasbro, because his debt to Marsha is over. So but what are you
And
gonna do?
everybody else was creating like books and stuff like that, kind of throughout, as legends and stuff too. So
expanded universe, right? The EU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
well, that's
never
what
got
the
into
Dark
this.
Empire was. Yeah, I mean, there was.
Yeah.
I remember getting the action figures were like $3 a piece. And when we went to Toys R Us, my buddy, one day, like, hey, let's go check out Toys R Us. We didn't go all the time, and that developed, later on. But so then one day that we went in, there was a big bin of them. Star Wars, expanded universe, $3 a piece, and we're like the going rate was like $4 or $5 or $6. We were ecstatic. We grabbed them, coupled them all up.
Yeah.
Every character you could find,
Yeah.
multiples of them, even repeats, so then I got multiples of I remember a kid brought some in to my toy club, he brought he had all the eight characters that first were released, before they had, somehow he got them. I don't know how he got them. He got them before, before the stores had them somehow. Because he worked at KB. He worked at KB.
The Power of the Force figures. So you got a good amount of them.
Yeah, well, for the Phantom Menace,
Yeah. Yep.
And he brought them to the club and said, I don't really want these, who wants them? And he couldn't know. He set a price. Who wants them for all 8, and so he couldn't get anybody to go for it. Because the price he said was like 80. He wanted $80 or something like that. I go,
gotcha.
And then he said he had a reverse auction. So who wants it for 75? Nobody. 70.
Yeah, going down.
Up to 60. Sold. I said, sold.
Bam. Yeah. Do you still have a lot of those figures now? You still have a lot of those figures still? You still have a lot of those figures still?
I think I sold those off. I got rid of those.
Did you? Oh, okay.
I need the 3/4, the 3 3/4 inch figures. Don't mean anything to me. I sometimes, everything in the Phantom Menace was massively overproduced. Very few of it, wasn't, and they were only worth $1 now. You might have been $7 or $8 when they came out, but they were only you can get them for a song. You can get multiple. You get the 2 for $1. I'm sure if you go on eBay, look hard and buy a lot. Because they're garbage. But you didn't know. You didn't know they could make anything.
Exactly.
Until Sideshow. I mean, I wouldn't know Sideshow started making 12-inch figures, and you thought that was the king to catch me out. But there was other figures back then too. They were like seeping in, like Clayton Moore stuff. The Buffy figures, things like that.
Star Wars. There's
couldn't find them at Toys R Us though. You had to go to like a comic book shop.
Specialty stores, Star Wars, definitely cashed in on their merchandise and their memorabilia and stuff. And I think that was another opportunity. We'll wrap up on this one, Moose, because we still got 2 more movies. Don't forget, we still got 2 more movies to discuss, and we've already spent an hour on this one here. So, that's ongoing. Star Wars merchandise.
Sure we're going to Attack of the Clones will go quickly.
Yeah, we'll see. But so overall, at least my favorite personally, or my least favorite of the trilogy, on this one, and depending on how the sequel, I gotta visit the sequels again and then kind of do like a ranking of all of them. But anyone got any more closing thoughts on episode 1 before we go on to episode 2?
My last thought would be is that not, and this kind of stands for all the prequels. The one thing I think we kind of is left unappreciated about the prequels is how influential they were with other forms of entertainment in the entertainment industry, in the sense that since the prequels, and certainly since episode 1, so many IPs have done the kind of prequel out in like the story before the hero became the hero, or how maybe like a case of Batman Begins. Like even in the comics, we never quite saw how Batman trained and became Batman, and they did, and they did that. James Bond, I mean, pretty much all the Daniel Craig movies are about Bond becoming Bond, or at least the first couple of them are. So a lot of IP have kind of done their version of the prequels, and it's been very influential in other forms of entertainment. And there were prequels before that, but even the idea of the prequel, I never really heard that popularized too much until episode 1. Everyone knew what a sequel was, but now prequel, sequel,
that's a good point.
Reboot.
Yeah, it was never more famous than Star Wars prequels.
That's true. I can't even think of any other mainstream series that did that. You're right.
They almost had to do an education campaign that no, it's not a sequel. Luke, Han, and Leia are not in this, or may not be until episode 3, at least 2 of them. So that this is a prequel. It takes place before.
Yeah.
Well, they should have known by the episode 1 and episode 4.
Yeah, that was telling, right? How they changed it after A New Hope, right, to episode 4, 5, and 6. That would have been an indicator there. Yeah. And I just realized real quick. Well, actually, I'll save it for Attack of the Clones. Yeah, we'll just jump in here and we'll come back to it. So
sorry, 1 second.
Go ahead.
I wanted to talk about I mean, Qui-Gon. All these is still well regarded today. Like he's one of the most famous Jedi. Even talked about like this first movie was so freaking big, dude. And I mean, love it or hate it, there's still so much greatness in this movie. I mean, of course, the Qui-Gon. Even some of the one-liners. There's always a bigger fish. I love that. The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Watto's, you think you're a Jedi waving your hand around like that?
Yeah. That was funny. Yeah, that was a good one.
First impersonation of the day.
It's for no good here.
Only money.
Juba Banaya. Yeah. That was one of my favorites. Juba Banaya.
And who's that based upon? That's something out of Casablanca.
Yeah, I know. I have no idea. Yep. But no, it's good. It's a good points, Blue. Yeah, good points on that. Yeah, he did have some memorable quotes. Yeah, I ended up liking Qui-Gon more after I went back and saw it again. But all right, so going from episode 1 to episode 2, Attack of the Clones is here. Where are we at here? So this one released in 2002, directed again by George Lucas. However, written by George Lucas and Jonathan Hales. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing his name correctly. So they tag team this script here. So with this, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Adam and take the lead on this, and then whoever can jump in after that, and I can go towards the end here. But go ahead, Adam, take it away.
So I saw episode 1. I hadn't met my wife yet. Episode 2, we saw. This is the first one I saw with my wife. We had just got married a few months this previous summer, 2001, so this is a great memory seeing this. We waited in line to get tickets and to get good seats. We saw that. I think it was a midnight show in Boston at the time I was living there. And to me, this is like 2 different movies in one. There's the first half of the movie, and there's some good parts in the first half. I think the scene where they're in the nightclub with then you want to buy some death sticks and Obi-Wan. I like the scenes with Obi-Wan, and then there's the love story part of it. The writing just doesn't it's not great, right? It's not great. And this is a case of 2 very good actors, Natalie Portman, and Hayden Christensen is a very good actor. You watch Shattered Glass. There's some other things he's been in, and he can act. But the chemistry between them is not so great in this. But it's because I don't necessarily think it's the chemistry between them. It's just the writing and direction. So there's some cringeworthy stuff there with the thing about the sand that gets everywhere. Now when it gets to Tatooine, and he just slaughters the Tuscans who kill his mother. Things kind of pick up a bit. But having said that, you got to question Padme, like her sanity here. This guy says, "Hey, I just killed this whole Tuscan village." No, you feel sympathy. They tortured his mother. God knows what they did to her. Tortured his mother, and then he's like, "And I killed the women and the children." And she still comforts him, you know. It's all right. She doesn't seem to really, whatever.
Not a red flag. Not a red
You're
flag.
a psychopath, but okay.
Wasn't that in the Sith, though? Wasn't that in Revenge of the Sith?
That's all right. No, we're
Did it happen in Revenge of the Sith? Am I misremembering? You know, when he attacked all the sand people?
No, this movie. Attack of the
Yeah,
Clones.
it's this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why
I know he's running down on the speeder bike. You know, going like whack-a-mole.
It's this movie, and she's like, okay, you know, let me give you a hug. So I said it's two movies. Now, where it becomes the second movie is when after when Anakin and Padme get to Geonosis, and after she says, "I truly, deeply love you," vomit. But once they roll into the arena and the love theme, John Williams' beautiful Across the Stars starts like playing, and they roll into the arena. That becomes a completely different movie, and that's the movie. And how the rest of the Attack of the Clones goes, I love that. So that second half of the movie to me makes this movie awesome. The previous half, with the exception of anything with Obi-Wan Kenobi in that first half, and anything with Jango Fett. I love that. I love the interaction between Obi-Wan and Jango Fett. You know, whether he goes to Kamino, the cloners there, and he's asking about. He's trying to unravel like who ordered these clones. He's obviously looking for Jango Fett because he knows that he was involved in an attempted assassination of Padme on Coruscant. So it's a little detective story and just a cat and mouse game between those two. I really like the scene where Slave One, and it's called Slave One. I'm not. That's the name of the ship. I know. Star Wars trying to change it. No, Slave One, and Obi-Wan Starfighter are chasing each other through like asteroid belt, and Jango Fett uses those gravity mines or whatever they're called, and the noise that it makes, like that was so cool to hear that in the theater, like that boom 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 boom, boom, that vibration sound. You know, I love that. You talk about direction of a child acting. Somehow they did a good job with Boba Fett because he's a little shit in that. But you felt a little bad for him after Mace Windu takes off Jango's head and he's holding the head, kind of, he's very sad. So I think the arena scene is awesome with to me, like when I was a kid and I thought about sequels or prequels or just more Star Wars, I always wanted to see like a shit ton of Jedi Knights fighting lightsaber battles, and like that gave me what I wanted. That was like all these Jedi Knights fighting and against the droids, and then you bring in Yoda coming to save the day on the Republic gunship, and to me that's like one of the all-time great Star Wars vehicles, the Republic gunship, and he's there with the clones and the whole battle scene on Geonosis with the Jedi and the clones. Oh my god, I love that. I think that's so awesome. I think the end lightsaber battle with Anakin and Obi-Wan and Dooku, and Anakin is so cocky he loses his arm. So you see you see the elements of him turning to the dark side. He slaughters the Tuscans. He's hot-headed. He loses his arm because he's arrogant. So that's his first step, becoming cyborg. And then all of a sudden, Yoda comes into the scene, and he just I think one of the great lightsaber battles between Yoda and Count Dooku. I think Christopher Lee is outstanding as Count Dooku. He brings something different. You know, he's this Sith Lord who is a former Jedi, Qui-Gon's master, and he brings this nobility to it, and I like a reluctance. Like, he does not want to fight, unlike Darth Maul, who's like, yeah, I want to fight these guys.
Yeah,
there's a reluctance in Count Dooku. He didn't want to fight Obi-Wan and Anakin or Yoda. He, you know, I think he truly believed that there's some corruption going on, and you know, I just loved every minute. And then, of course, the end scene with Palpatine and his, Bail Organa and some of the other senators watching from a balcony as the clone troopers board the first kind of version of the Star Destroyer, the Republic cruisers, heading off to parts unknown to fight the Clone Wars. Like, to me, that's like, yes, that's the Star Wars I've been wanting. That's what I wanted in Episode 1. So yeah, I really enjoy this movie. I know it's a lot of people consider this the lesser of the trilogy. I don't know. I mean, it's like rated wise, it's like the lowest rating of the trilogy, but I really enjoy this film.
Oh wow, okay. Blue, what about you? Where does this sit within the trilogy for you? What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I agree. I like it more than most. Adam pretty much touched a lot of the points. The Yoda reveal was freaking amazing. He just dropped the cane, forced the lightsaber to his hand and just flipping around and shit.
Yeah.
That was super cool. And as far as Dooku, yeah, he brought, he was Count. He brought a certain nobility to it, and he played the role phenomenally. He gave it kind of a sinister tone as well, because it's Christopher Lee. But truly, he should have had an orange lightsaber, because he wasn't really a Sith. He was a Count. He called himself Count Dooku, so he wasn't really a Sith. He should have had like an orange lightsaber to show that. But he was fantastic. And Django and that even I forget what the heck they call it, that grenade, whatever that is. It's one of the greatest sounds ever created in Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Seismic charge, was that it, or am I thinking something else?
Seismic charge, yeah. That
you're right.
it.
Seismic charge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, the greatest. They should always use that in Star Wars forever, because it's just an amazing sound. Shout out to also the designer of it all, basically Doug Chang. He designed all the clones and the looks and the ships and of course all the crew they had it with, and George approved it and stuff like that. But he helped design like a whole bunch of that stuff. So a great futuristic look overall. And yeah, as far as the love story goes, it kind of forced. It wasn't, like you said, their chemistry was non-existent. The second half, with the Geonosis and all that, super cool. I still dig it. I think it's really good. And of course, just like the previous one, dialogue, but still, I still love it. So.
How old were you when this came out? 2002, Blue.
In 2002, I was probably 17, 18.
Okay, but I'm sure I think the sequels appeal to the youth. If you're my age, maybe Adam's age, I don't think even older than me. I'm not even sure people older than me want to keep up with this. There are very few people ever talk about Star Wars in my age group. Maybe Turbo 66 in the chats might, but I don't see many other people. Unless they're around my age. No one's really older. They kind of stop collecting or stop watching these kind of films or start thinking about them. But me and my buddy, like we're all
I'm
in.
just easily entertained, man. I grew up on movies. I'm just easily entertained. It doesn't take much, like, but when I can call out stupid shit in a movie, no problem. But as far as my entertainment bar, for my lack of a better term, I guess. Expectations down there. It's like way down. I don't, I go in with a blank slate. If I like it, I like it. If I don't like it, I just don't watch it. So, yeah.
I just turned on, recently I watched the first 20 minutes of Phantom Menace, and I forced myself to watch it. And as soon as they hit the set hit talking about the Gungans and everything like that, and Jar Jar walks in, I go, whoa, this is where the turning point of that movie is, down the hole, like down a rabbit hole, The whole thing about it is a lot of this stuff, the problems that I have with these two movies is it's skewed way to the negative, because it's just some things don't seem honest, it's just forced and fabricated, too much. That I think that didn't seem natural in Star Wars, A New Hope and everything else. And Attack of the Clone especially is basically another transition movie. The first Empire, when we saw Empire, I saw it when I was 18. That was a transition movie. Nothing got settled, and kind of let people kind of alienated people a bit until Return of the Jedi, and then when Return of the Jedi came out, everyone thought, well, we should have loved Empire when we had a chance, from the beginning, but because there was too much baby stuff in that, it's almost like Ewoks and things like that. Why would they should have been another kind of character and like that, and Boba Fett is a cipher, the hump, getting whacked up, but that we'll get to, that's another movie, another chat altogether.
We touched on that already.
Attack of the Clones,
another thing about expectations.
Doesn't do much besides, it's very by increments. More things happen in the Clone Wars afterwards than happened in this movie.
I would love to talk about those movies.
What I would say is, Blu kind of touched on expectations. And I think that's a good point. When I saw the original trilogy, there are scenes that and everything's based on that depends on your point of view. Obi-Wan kept saying, and pretty much everything that my conception of the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin was pretty much based on what Obi-Wan said. Just a little bit of what Vader said, but he didn't really say too much. He just talked about Obi-Wan once thought as you do, whatever. It was almost all based on Obi-Wan, maybe a little bit of Yoda. And I never felt a couple of brief things in Revenge of the Sith, but I never really, you see their master and apprentice, Obi-Wan and Anakin, but I never felt that they were like best buddies, like Luke and Han. And I guess I always thought they were going to be like best buddies, and maybe my perception of that was wrong from the original. Obviously, it was wrong from the original trilogy because that's not what Lucas showed us. But I was expecting Episode 2 to show us a relationship that was not, Obi-Wan was very much like writing Anakin a lot in this for like don't basically don't be a screw up, and don't be so arrogant. And my expectation was that it's going to show them being like good friends, and I never saw that in this film.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, yeah, I can see that, and it's kind of, and I know we'll touch on this as far as the relationship in Episode 3, but yeah, no, I agree. It just seems like that master and apprentice relationship, right? And that's kind of what is more portrayed here, not really like the best buddies and the brother aspect that again we'll touch on in the next episode, but maybe that kind of goes back to the directing too, where they didn't really get a lot of guidance on how to approach these characters, or maybe they did and that's how they wanted to portray them. It's just kind of more of like this, not really like close personal relationship, but more of like like mentor mentee type of thing. So yeah,
right.
I'm not sure, but I agree with you. Yeah, I didn't really get that feeling from them. It was just more like hey, I'm telling you to do this, listen and stay in line type of thing. Kind of more like an order type of thing. But yeah, I guess as far as for me, I actually liked the story in this one. I mean, yeah, I agree with what you guys mentioned about the love story aspect of it. I think that wasn't written as well. But I guess to specify or to clarify, I should say the Obi-Wan becoming a detective and solving a mystery, like that actually had me really intrigued and interested to like, oh man, where's this going? Like, as the movie progressed, I'm like, okay, you find, go to this question, you're like, what's his clone army? And he goes there and it's like, okay, now then you get another piece of information, unraveling, these clues and going on to the next. It just was really, really mysterious and had me intrigued the whole time. And I actually liked that part of it more so than, I felt like there was actually something here as opposed to episode 1 where, and I forgot to touch on this, but on episode 1, it just seems like it was more that, the Jedi were sent to go talk to the separatists and then stuff just ends up happening from there. It wasn't really like an actual story per se. It was more like things just kept happening. It's like, okay, they did this one thing. Okay, now they got to run away. Now they're escaping. Okay, like we need some help. Let's go to like, what I'm saying? It just kind of seemed like more like a sequence of events than an overarching like kind of story. Here, I would say the overarching story was like the clone army, who created them and why type of thing. And so that was, then we kind of find out slowly like why that was. And so there was some mystery overall to this. And then, yeah, there was part of it, there was a transition. So I actually liked this one more than episode 1 for that reason. That was one of them. And of course, yeah, I agree. The Count Dooku fight scene at the end and Yoda. Oh man, I just remember one of the memorable moments in my theater watching experience was when Yoda just started going crazy and going ham and jumping everywhere. People were cheering and clapping, like they literally were like happy and like shouting for him, like woo! Yeah, it was awesome. It was cool. Yeah, I kind of felt that one, and that was the first time we saw Yoda. Just especially coming from the original trilogy, right, where he was kind of seems more of like that old and he was old, but kind of more like feeble, fragile creature. Until to this, now he's just going all over the place, and then he just after he's done, he just picks up his cane and he goes back to like walking again. It was just funny.
Yeah.
after having jumping around and fought Dooku, so yeah, it was. There definitely is another one that had its moments. I think that one for me, that moment was that fight scene. Whereas in episode 1, it was the pod race and the fight scene, right with Darth Maul. But this one, I think the highlight was. And then in the ring, obviously, like in the ring with the when they were on. I'm already forgetting is it Utapau?
Yeah,
where they were captured and they were going to be executed, and then like they all just like those creatures came and they escaped and they were fighting, and then all of a sudden the Jedi came. That's where we saw more of the Jedi. That was actually, I take it back. That was actually a cool
Utapau
scene
was
too.
episode 3.
Was it? Okay. What was? Oh yeah. Okay, you're right. I'm jumping the gun here. So, that. Wasn't this? Wait, what was the planet? But this is where they were captured, right? And they were put in the ring. And that's
Geonosis.
Thank you, Geonosis. That's what it is. Thank you. Yeah, Geonosis. Yeah. Sorry, I was confused there. And then we see, of course, the introduction of all these other Jedi, and then that showdown with Mace Windu and Jango Fett, and Mace Windu just takes him out easily. I was like, damn, he just like that, just beheads him. And so I was like, damn, that went pretty quick. That was pretty kind of like I guess to like
Jango Fett with a hump.
He kind of like similar to Darth Maul, right? We just gets cut in half and bam, that's it. It's like this is, I guess, Jango Fett, and this was the
it's an ongoing thing with Star Wars,
Yeah, right.
The cool characters get killed pretty quickly.
Yeah,
cool looking characters.
Now, let me ask you this. I'm just trying to think. How did Boba Fett get his armor? Did he take his father's armor?
That's his father's armor.
He painted.
He repainted it.
Yeah. Okay. Just like he took his ship. Yep. Couple of things. Another thing, going back and watching this one, a couple of things I kind of thought got my attention or brought some questions to me. For one, you guys mentioned the droids. I think Adam touched on this. The droids, and like they didn't really have a lot of dialogue. Or like dialogue didn't really sound too. It wasn't really that great. In this one, I actually thought they were more humorous. I mean, yeah, I think you mentioned that as much also, Adam. They were just kind of more like they seemed kind of dumbish in like their dialogue, but they actually made me laugh. Just kind of like that humor that was tossed in there. And I'm thinking back of when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. I think they went to go confront General Grievous, and they were in the main area of the ship, the hull, I think it's called. I forget what it's called, but where they're controlling the ship, and then the droid comes through. He's like, "Excuse me," and he just kind of goes in between.
Yeah, it's
Qui-Gon
funny.
and yeah. That just like little tidbits of dialogue like that in there, and they're like, "Wow, oh no!" I mean, just kind of commentary like that.
Even now, like I sometimes joke with my wife or my daughter, and like they'll ask me to do something, and I'll be like, "Roger, Roger."
Yeah, Roger, Roger. Yeah, yeah. It's just kind of that shows a little personality for those droids. So yeah, I find that funny. And then you guys mentioned Obi-Wan kind of just scolding Anakin at times, and who was it? Obi-Wan was, when he was talking to Anakin, he does mention, I forget who he's talking to, but he does mention that his abilities have made him arrogant, because he knows that he ends up learning and finding out that he is pretty powerful, I guess, because Obi-Wan has told him. I forget if he did in the movie at some point, or if it was the chosen one. I guess he would have to have known, right, that Qui-Gon wanted Obi-Wan to train him because he felt he was the chosen one. So I don't know if that was actually told to Anakin. I think it was in the first movie, right? I'm forgetting. But so that we kind of see that, at his age, it's kind of getting to his head and is becoming arrogant. And that goes back to what Adam was mentioning earlier. And I mentioned and something that actually, Obi-Wan, that's right. The way I wrote this down was kind of weird, but yeah, Obi-Wan was talking to Yoda and says his abilities have made him arrogant. And then to which Yoda replies, it's like, yes, a flaw more and more common among Jedi, too sure of themselves they are, even the older, more experienced ones, which I thought was kind of telling and kind of like maybe a little foreshadow to Revenge of the Sith. And hopefully I don't forget this later on, but I'll just mention it now in case I do forget. But in episode 3, where Palpatine just takes down those 3 Jedi with Mace Windu, and I specifically, I always go back to what the hell, they did them dirty. And so I guess keeping that, what I just said, this quote from Yoda in mind, I mean, I guess I can kind of see that, and we'll touch on that too when we get to that. But I just wanted to bring that up, and it's something I didn't pay attention to before. But Yoda's even recognizing these Jedi, because they've never been challenged, right? Because there was no Sith that they were aware of until slowly coming up, and so they just let it get to their head, and they just got arrogant and
lazy writing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. We'll come back to that.
Let's just whack them off. There
was an intention in there for Yoda to say that, at least. That was specifically written for him to say. So I wonder. I don't know. Maybe one can debate if that was foreshadow or if that was just thrown in there. I don't know. We'll come back to that. Jango recruited by Lord Tyrannus. I forgot who mentions that, but that was another key clue there, that was the first mention of that name, I think. And then you guys touched on this earlier, the whole Anakin and Shmi getting kidnapped, Anakin's mother, right? Another question I have for you guys: do you think Palpatine orchestrated the kidnapping of his mother to kind of further help develop his push to the dark side?
Yes.
Yes.
You think? Yeah.
100%.
What would be the point of it, anyways? I mean, just random. How does random violence have been given? You need some kind of purpose. You need something. There should have been purpose behind it, and there was.
Yeah. Well, to get him further to the dark side, right? To give into his hate and to anger, and to push him more to the dark side, so Palpatine can easily manipulate him in the future. Yeah, but what do you think, Blue? Do you think that was actually?
Yeah. I don't think Tuscans would do that without some sort of push or being paid, or because they don't seem like that kind of people. So I think they probably got paid to kidnap her and do all that, or got tricked into doing it, saying she's a spy, or some along those lines. But
they should have shown that.
I absolutely
should have shown that more overtly. There was an envoy from Palpatine, to the Tuscans, and give them some money, and all of a sudden, and you pan over, you see Shmi getting kidnapped by them.
Yeah, well, you also got to think of pacing, and you also got to think of pacing, and he wants you to believe also that the Tuscans did it, and he's gonna kill him. So. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and it was never confirmed, right? I mean, they obviously, again, they don't show it. That's hence why I brought up the question. Same thing with if Palpatine felt Anakin's presence. So, Yeah, it kind of makes you think like how far back, like how intertwined or how involved was Palpatine with Anakin's his path, right, to
Ascension.
either good, well,
descension.
yeah, I guess either way, yeah, either one to say either like his path to the light side or the dark side. Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
I think to that point, I think perhaps in episode 3, and I think episode 3 is a great movie. But I think the whole prequel saga, and actually the whole 6 film saga, would even have been improved if there was just all you needed was one small scene of and like a voiceover with a montage maybe of Palpatine's, basically saying everything has proceeded as I've foreseen it, and basically showing him, or whether it's bribing or setting up
Oh yeah,
with the midichlorians creating Anakin, and just and then ordering the killing of Shmi and all these little things that he's orchestrated behind the scenes. I think if that was in episode 3, that would have been like people's mind. Everyone else kind of probably assumed it, but a lot of people who were just more casual would have been like minds blown. And I think that would have people would have gone back to episode 1 and episode 2 and be like, oh, okay. Now my viewing of it is improved, knowing that this is all like a setup by Palpatine.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think
that's
that
what
would have helped too.
Yeah,
But
that's what makes Clone Wars so good. Like, they had that time to tell that story, and that they could have done it then.
yeah. No, and then again, to what you guys touched on, this is kind of showing more manipulation, right, from Palpatine, from Senator Chancellor Palpatine and or Sidious, and kind of seeing how he's building up and playing the long game, basically. And yeah, I agree with Moose too. Even in the beginning, it wasn't hard to tell, at least for me, anyways. I'm sure a lot of people caught on to this. I'm not the only one, but I think it was easy to see that Palpatine and Sidious were like one and the same. Just like hearing it in his voice, and just even if when he had his hood on, when he was Sidious, you could see, like you could tell it was his facial features. It was him. So it's like you kind of have to suspend disbelief that no one else caught on to that either. So that was just, I don't know, that was interesting, and it kind of makes me wonder if. And it kind of goes to one of the next questions I have here for this movie. When Dooku captured Obi-Wan, right, on Geonosis, and he had him like floating, and Dooku kind of comes in and he's over there talking to Obi-Wan, and he was letting him know that he was telling him, like, what if I told you the Senate was under the influence of a Dark Lord or a Sith Lord, basically, of Sidious, right? And so for the longest time I never understood. It wasn't clear to me if Dooku knew that Palpatine was Sidious, or if he wasn't aware of, or if he just wasn't aware of that and he was just listening to following Sidious's orders. So I don't know. That wasn't clear to me, but it seems like in that, going back and listening to that dialogue, that he did know. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think he was aware they were one and the same person?
Yeah, I think so, and I think he was trying to tempt. What Lucas has said is about the Sith is they're always trying. The rule of 2, and the apprentices oftentimes always trying to take out the master and become the master themselves. And I think this is a case of Count Dooku trying to get a new apprentice in Obi-Wan Kenobi,
right,
and to take out
gang up on Palpatine.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because. Yeah, I'll let Blue answer, and I actually have a follow-up question to that. But go ahead, Blue. What are your thoughts on? Do you think Dooku knew they were one and the same person?
Yeah, I think they. I think Dooku knew for sure, because he was deep in that, really. And like I said, he wasn't really a Sith. I think he was just kind of an opportunist, and he wasn't a Jedi no more. But he wasn't really a Sith, even though I think his other name was also Lord Tyrannus, but I'm sure that he knew. I'm sure he could see under that robe when he talked to the Emperor that, hey, that guy kind of looks like Palpatine. I'm sure he knew.
Yeah.
He absolutely knew.
Yeah. Beam here saying, just like Clark Kent in his classes. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Just put the hood on, bam, whole different person. Yeah, so that kind of actually leads into my next question that I had that I had to do some research on because it wasn't clear in the films, at least to me anyway. So maybe I completely missed it. I'm just went over my head. But So, Palpatine mentions that the let's see here. Well, the other question is, and we hear about Darth Plagueis, right, in Episode 3, but kind of going back to that and relating it to this, when do you think Palpatine killed Plagueis? Because like you guys mentioned, and we all know there's a rule of two, right? A master and an apprentice. But it seems like Palpatine or Sidious had Maul, and then Dooku came along. So at some point, and it wasn't specified, but and I've read some things, but I want to get your take on how that was and who actually was the master and the apprentice as far as like the Sith and when Palpatine took out Sidious. What do you think, Moose? Or Palpatine took out Plagueis, sorry.
When did it happen? Before the Phantom? It had to have happened before the Phantom Menace. To get the plan going. He had Maul. I don't know. Maybe did Maul help him kill Plagueis? I don't know. We never saw that.
Yeah.
That'd be a prequel to the prequel. Like, let's have that. Let's the story of Sidious before that. That might be an interesting movie. We still really haven't. I don't know if there's been comics on that or other storylines or any books.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Books, yeah.
So it's kind of frustrating the whole first two movies. Just keeping track of things, but by the time everything's all forgiven by Revenge of the Sith, just the opening battle. Revenge of the Sith, I didn't care. Let's fight some people, and then it really went dark when Anakin beheaded Dooku. There we go. Now you're talking, baby. That's going into the Sith, and then he killed all the kids. Like, oh my god! Like, Jesus.
All right, jumping ahead there, Moose. Let's bring it back to Episode 2. Yeah, let's go back to Episode 2.
I know.
Yeah, Blue. What were your thoughts on Palpatine and when he killed Plagueis and the whole rule of two for them?
When did it happen?
I think that I don't know. He could have been around, up till Episode 3, when he finally got pretty much Anakin on his side before he knew he could get him. He could have lasted up until then and just kind of, Palpatine seems like a sneak, so he probably just stabbed him in the back one day, and and then boom, he was gone. He learned as much as he could from him, and then just kind of offed him. So, yeah.
Yeah, Adam, or you have thoughts on that?
I think I think he was killed before the events of I don't know how much before, but definitely before the events of Episode 1. And I'm curious if he did use Maul as part of his he killed him in his sleep. I don't know. I'm thinking it was I think Palpatine himself killed him.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to. I guess initially the idea of the Acolyte was Plagueis' story, but you didn't see him until like the last, and you just saw like his hands a little bit from the last shot of the
Have
Acolyte.
his face.
So it's unfortunate that wasn't the case instead of the. I don't want to go just the travesty that was. Can I just mention 2 points about Attack of the Clones while it's on my mind here? The first thing is, this is the first time we see, it's a very small Easter egg, but very important to the Star Wars saga. And the Geonosians give Count Dooku and Count Dooku does give Palpatine at the end, Sidious, the plans to the Death Star. The initial plans to the Death Star. So this is very important that there is a lot writing on this. That was the, Palpatine is the Phantom Menace, and this whole thing is to engineer his takeover of the galaxy, to become Emperor, and to have this ultimate weapon to instill fear on the galaxy, the Death Star. The other thing I thought was, going back to the relationship between Padme and Anakin in the first part of this film, it always struck me as kind of weird and creepy when Anakin first sees Padme after like 10-11 years or so, and like his reaction is a little creepy, he's telling I've thought of her every day since. I feel like Padme might want to get an order, restraining order against him. Or something. I don't know. So I always thought that was kind of funny, just how that's played.
Here on reality, like restraining order would have been issued immediately. After hearing that,
we'll get married.
Don't come near me. Exactly. So real quick, touching on.
It might be an example of how tone deaf Lucas is in real life.
Oh, maybe, I don't know. Maybe that
really has no,
I don't know him personally. I don't know.
He's divorced and everything like that. Like what ended that? Like, because he was so focused on making his movies and things like that, he couldn't relate to his wife. Like, I don't know what was going on with that.
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm not sure. Yeah,
I mean,
I don't get into the guy's personal life.
Episode,
yeah,
he was
different conversation.
He was trying to get Linda Ronstadt to marry him, and he couldn't get that. He couldn't get that accomplished. He was in love with her.
Not sure about that, but let's just keep it on the movies here. I don't want to go into the guy's personal life here, but to the question I was going to address earlier about Plagueis, I think I agree with you all from a movie perspective that Palpatine or Sidious killed Plagueis before Phantom Menace, right? Because he would have to have taken in Maul, and he labeled him as Darth Maul. So I agree with you, but it was just interesting because I initially had that question. I went and I was curious, and so I was doing some research, and it turns out in the extended universe or in Legends, right, for like the books and stuff, Sidious kills Plagueis right when he becomes Emperor, right? I think it was Emperor Palpatine, or became Chancellor. Sorry, when Palpatine became Chancellor, then that's when he kills Plagueis. And then that in the books, Maul and Dooku aren't really. Maul's not really labeled like a Darth. He's not considered like his apprentice. He's more of like what do they call him? Like a Sith assassin is what they labeled him in his book. So I thought that was interesting, and I wasn't aware of that in the books. Anyways, like again, I don't read the books or the extended universe or anything like that, but it just wasn't because in the movie it wasn't as clear. So in the movies, Sidious takes on Maul, becomes his apprentice, and then once he's killed, in it seems like I guess right after that, he takes on Dooku, and that kind of leads to another question that we don't have to get into, but how long was he aware of Dooku, and when did he start convincing him, and things like that, and bringing him to the dark side, basically, because when they find out Dooku was a Sith, he was like an apprentice, or a Sith that in general, I should say, they were all surprised, like Obi-Wan, and I think I forget who else, some other members of the Jedi Council, and they were like, wow, it's like Dooku, and it kind of seemed like it just happened recently, right? Because again, they were surprised that he became a Sith, so I thought that was kind of interesting. On that aspect, and then going back to what Adam mentioned, the whole Death Star plans. I wanted to bring that up too because I was kind of confused by that because I thought, in Rogue One it made it seem like Galen Erso was the one who designed that. So is there some overlap there where he did design it, but then I guess the creatures on the Geonosians got that somehow, or I don't know. Do you guys have an idea of how that whole came to be, like how that ties in with Galen Erso? And
that could be, but I always got the impression that could be. I mean, he could have worked on it with the Geonosians. The Geonosians were builders, and he was the architect. Okay. But they also could have been. This could have been plans they developed, and I guess I always thought of it as. That's one possibility, or the possibility is that they just developed the plans, and Galen Erso, they developed the concept of it, the conceptual plans, and Galen Erso took those conceptual plans and actually did the engineering to it, and made developed the working model and oversaw that. That he led the team. That was responsible for actually taking that concept and making it a reality.
I see. No, I can see that. I don't know. Blue, you have thoughts on that?
So like Galen Erso's involvement in that.
Like was he involved since the beginning and helping the Geonosians come up with that, or do you think like what Adam said, it was handed off to him after they had a concept, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think he helped design it. I mean, he did that design flaw, I suppose, and and if they had the plans that long, yeah, that was probably before he went off on his own to that plan to live with his family and hide out. So yeah, Galen was probably creating that with the Geonosians and other Imperials and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It probably was explained in some other shows that I'm just forgetting right now that I kind of
I would liken it to the Manhattan Project, the atom bomb, in that Einstein and like Teller and some of these other people came up with the some of the physics, and they split, and then they split the atom in was it Niels Bohr in Germany, what have you. But it was Oppenheimer and the scientists they gathered in Los Alamos who actually built the bomb. And I think Galen Erso is basically the J. Robert Oppenheimer of the Death Star project.
You agree with that,
Except, of course, he built the flaw in it to make sure it would be destroyed.
Right.
So when Krennic killed Gene Erso's mother, okay. Then it was a number of years between, Gene Erso's mother dies and Gene Erso joins the rebellion. How many years is that? 10, 12? I forget. How many years?
I think that scene in the beginning of Rogue One, well, between Episode 3 and A New Hope, is like 20 years, 19 to 20 years, and let's just say 20 years. I think, and Solo takes place 10 years before. So I think that part of Rogue One is like maybe like I don't know, 4 or 5 years after Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you think Galen Erso, worked for the Empire. Okay?
Empire, yeah.
And but somehow something changed. That so he ran because something was different. Him and his wife ran away because they knew somehow there was something going on. I forget, so we know they were running from Emperor Palpatine when he became emperor. That's why they ran for so many years, and started to try to hide on that farm, but they finally caught up to him,
I think this is like a black project, a secret project, and
yeah, for sure.
This was started. Palpatine got the plan, so it's the end of Clone Wars, and then I don't know. There's at least a year, if not a couple years, between in the continuity. I mean, it's definitely 3 years between the movie came out, and I don't know if it might be 3 years in between in real time in terms of the Clone Wars taking place. Between in the continuity of Star Wars, and I think the Black Project to create the Death Star was started under the Republic. I mean, and because there's a flashback scene of Coruscant and Krennic's over for dinner, and I think they're still like in that Republic garb, where it hasn't quite yet become the Empire. But there's, I mean, obviously, because they shifted on a dime from Empire to, Republic to Empire, and they were already heading in the direction of doing some shady stuff. So that's my thought.
Yeah, no, I think I can see what you guys are saying. That makes sense to me. We're like, they already he was already working on the plans. Like the others were kind of come up with an idea, and it was just transferred in to Galen Erso, and he took over and made it a reality, and further touched on engineering some things.
They were probably selling it to him like, well, this is the project to save the Republic against the evil Trade Federation. And then, this is all speculation, but, so the war ends, and I'm thinking Galen Erso kind of realizes, all right, they killed the Jedi. I think some people who are at high levels who are intelligent probably clearly figured out this dude Palpatine is freaking evil, and they're doing some really bad things, and they're killing people. They're committing genocide in some places. That this is a bad thing that I'm working on, and that the the galaxy's in danger if this thing is ever created, and that's why he left.
Yeah. Yeah, you realize. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I was kind of thinking that too as we were discussing that. And then, yeah, that's kind of what they did to a lot of people, right? They like kind of manipulated him and tricked them into thinking that like this empire or like Palpatine was going to be, he was doing things for the people, for the Galactic Republic. And yeah, it's just all manipulation. And so a lot of people started slowly realizing that. So, there was another thing, damn, I was going to touch on. I'm forgetting what it was, but.
And then we shall have peace.
Yeah. So another thing, yeah, one of the overarching things of it, and it's in the subtitle, right? Attack of the Clones, that I don't think we really touched on. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but you know, this whole, there was this separation, this fear that the Separatists, the Trade Federation, or the Separatists were going to kind of start, they're getting together and go against the Galactic Republic, right? And they were building this army, that's hence the droids, and so there was there were starting to be, the Senate and the other senators were starting to become afraid of what they were going to do, and of course that brings the whole clone army, right? And they once they discover there's a clone army being made, like, okay, well, you know, we need to possibly use this clone army to help us out, basically to fight for us, to have our defense and protect us against this Separatist army. And then that's when, you know, the whole manipulation continues, and then Jar Jar Binks, you know, I guess, what is he requests to grant, was it Chancellor Palpatine then at the time, emergency powers, who then, which he does get, obviously we all know, and then he then signs, or he then approves the use of this clone army. So that's all building up into the to the end of the movie, and that's what finally happens, and then the clones show up. You know, at that point it wasn't decided. It was like, oh man, are they going to approve them or not? And then yeah, he grants it, and he's like, yes, let's use this clone army, and bam, they come in, and that's when they start having this big old war on Geonosis towards the end. So, and that then, as we know, sets up again, kind of building this, you know, the setup from continuing the setup from episode 1, now episode 2 with the clones, and then yeah, it carries on from there. So very significant portion of Star Wars lore in general, right? Just the clones become a big important factor in Star Wars in general. And so speaking of the clones, one thing I wasn't aware of that I learned recently, and like, again, going back and watching, and I caught this. So when Obi-Wan is giving a tour of the what is the clone planet? They're Kaminoans, but Camino. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I just said. Camino. So on the planet of Camino, yeah, where like the clones are being, he finds that planet, you know, he goes there, and then he's getting a tour, and we can see all the clones kind of in that mess hall, that dining hall, they're all eating, and you see a couple of them, and there was one that I thought looked like Tamora Morrison, but it was like a little off, and now that's where we see young Boba, right? Boba Fett, Jango's unaltered clone, which acts as his son. And so, yeah, I kind of coincidentally just caught this post on Reddit, but there's 3 different actors used in the life cycle of a clone, right? So you have Daniel Logan, who plays young Boba. He's represents the clones at like that young kid age. So there's that actor. Then there's another actor, Bodhi Taylor, and that's like a young adult clone. And that's the one that we see pictured in the mess hall eating. You kind of see a couple of them like sitting next to each other and all looking around. They're like dressed in red. So that's like a young adult version. And then, of course, there's Tamora Morrison, who plays the fully matured clone. And that's the one we see multiple of. And so I didn't know there was, well, obviously the young kid, right? It's just like this different actor. But I didn't realize that there was a middle actor to play a young adult version of the clone. So I thought that was interesting there.
Yeah, but I guess I didn't notice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, right. It's like a lot of people were asking, was that Tamora Morrison? It doesn't look like him, but it kind of does. And then they were asking if it was CGI, but like, no, there's no CGI. That was an actual actor. They used Bodhi Taylor again on that. So yeah, it was.
How long did it take for them to grow? How long did Boba Fett, take to grow? I mean, he's a clone of it. He's just another clone. That his father, adopted.
But but Boba Fett's unaltered though, right? He's an unaltered.
Yeah,
clone.
he's unaltered. He didn't have the rapid growth.
Normally.
Yeah, he grows like a normal human, whereas like all the other clones have accelerated, rapid growth. So that's why he's like a kid when we see him, and like he just kind of slowly ages as he. Well,
they really ruined Boba Fett on the Book of Boba Fett, though, huh?
yeah. A lot of
they humanized. Disney said, "Let's humanize all the villains." Like this is why don't we just humanize Anakin? They humanize Anakin too right now in Ahsoka,
Oh, when on his appearance, yeah, yep, a different, different conversation on that one. But yeah, a lot of mixed things on a lot of negative ones on those shows too. But yeah, and let me see. I think that's all I had for episode 2. Anyone got anything else for Attack of the Clones before we jump on to the last and final episode in the trilogy?
Natalie Portman's so beautiful in that poster. That guy I drew. Like
Drew Struzan.
He's so gorgeous there. I don't think it really looks like her, but someone's gorgeous in that poster.
Yeah, I think they're all good looking. Yeah. Well, Jango is wearing his armor, of course, but yeah. Yep. Real quick before we go on, I got something I wasn't keeping track of, but Grandmaster Solus, thank you for joining us here in the chat, and also mentions that Mandu and Grogu trailer tomorrow. What is that? February 17th. So yeah, I didn't realize that. So be on the lookout for that one. I guess a full trailer. I know we got like a sneak
peek. Will there be
peek.
beer? Will there be beer in that trailer?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. So yeah, thanks for the heads up on that. Yeah, I wasn't keeping track of that. Then we got 14 Wellington in the house. What's up, 14 Wellington? Hiya,
hey,
Judo Chop. Yeah, thanks for coming through, 14. Good to see you here. That guy's stuff saying, as soon as I saw that Disney bought Star Wars, I cried, and to this day I'm still in tears. Yeah, I know you're not alone on that one. A lot of people, I guess, felt some heartache with that one. Yeah. Dahlia Meyer saying, I dislike the whole concept of the clone army right from the start. Oh wow, that's an interesting take. I don't think I've heard anyone mention that, but not to say that's definitely not the case, but no,
it was a cheap way to get an army built.
Yeah, and maybe again merchandising and figures, right? A good way to sell figures. So we all know to this day,
cheaper than droids.
Hot toys. Yeah,
it was cheaper than droids.
Reuse.
Smarter.
Yep, smarter. But all right. Going on to the last and final of this trilogy here to close out the culmination of this prequel trilogy, we have Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3. Let's see, released 3 years after. So all these are 3 years apart. This one was released in 2005. Let's see here, and I just realized I forgot to write down. Directed also, I take it by George Lucas, I presume, but you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I just realized I forgot to write that down. Yeah, okay, thank you. And I'll come back to the writers, or maybe Adam, if you know, you can go ahead and jump in. But with that, I'll go ahead and throw it over to Adam to take the lead on this one. Episode 3. Go ahead, Adam.
I mean, this is my favorite of the prequel trilogy. It's my 4th favorite Star Wars film. I really love this movie. I think this is the most in line with the spirit of the original trilogy. Probably no surprise because it's the one that gets us to the original trilogy. I've seen this, like all these prequels, I've seen this many times. I think this is the one when I was, again, like when I talked about when I was younger and before the prequels came out, this was like what I was, kind of like the second half of Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. That's what I was expecting of the prequel trilogy. So this delivered. I think I loved as much as we were very hard and probably rightfully so on Lucas for his directing of actors in terms of eliciting good performances. I think the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan in this is really good. I think Natalie Portman shows that she is a good actress. Just in the final scene, she talks about Anakin breaking her heart. I think it's again they're not always great with each other, but again I kind of blame Lucas, but it's a little bit less so in this. That's an issue. I think the opening battle, Moose, I think it was Moose who mentioned it. The opening battle to this is great. And there's some nice humor between Obi-Wan and Anakin. He's like, this is where the fun begins. And, just little things when they're on General Grievous's ship.
Yeah, because it seems like it's more. But was Phantom Menace PG or PG-13?
I don't know, but Episode 3 is PG-13. I think Phantom Menace is PG. And
Attack of the Clones, I think it's PG.
And that's PG. So this is definitely PG-13 13, and for a lot of reasons. One, certainly in the beginning of the film when Anakin executes Count Dooku in a grievous manner, no pun intended, by lobbing his head off, and Palpatine just telling him do it, basically encouraging him on to do that. The whole scene, I'm kind of skipping around a bit here, but the execute order 66 scene is great. I remember seeing that. It was like heartbreaking to see. You knew it was coming. You know the Jedi had to be hunted down and destroyed, but to see them being executed by the clones still was heartbreaking to see. The fight, I always thought it is kind of funny with the fight between Mace Windu and Palpatine.
Sidious.
I think is great. He does those other three. I think Kid Fisto. I can't remember the other two. Right, Stacey Teen, and I can't remember the other guy's name. They, they're all in. They go down like chumps. But I still think that fight between and the tension between Mace Windu and Palpatine is great. And when Anakin walks in there and he's like, obviously he's wrestling with this moral dilemma of, what do I do here? And does this Palpatine, does he really have the secret to save Padme? And I think I think that was well done. And just again, to me, the MVP in this trilogy is Ian McDiarmid, and more so in display in this film than any other. He was just so delicious, his performance, and just so evil. In this as Palpatine, just from that scene where he's he's trying to I'm dying, ultimate power, everything in that. And I mentioned it earlier. I think one of the best scenes, and actually all the Star Wars films, from an acting standpoint, is, and this is where Lucas did do something right. And I kind of give Palpatine, or I give Ian McDiarmid a lot of credit. The opera scene where Anakin and Palpatine are talking about the dark side versus the Sith versus the Jedi, and I think that is an awesome scene, and just kind of the background lore that Palpatine gives about Plagueis and all that. I think that's one of the great scenes of this film and of the saga. Of course, the final fight between really the cut, the duel fight between Palpatine and Yoda and Anakin and Obi-Wan is just, I think, is probably the best duel. I'm going to say it's the best duel in the whole saga. Though I think Vader versus Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi is a close second. But I think this is because the music is awesome, where they interplay the Battle of the Heroes and they bring back Duel of the Fates. I think where Yoda is taking on Palpatine, and it's like, the fate of the galaxy is at stake, and Palpatine is just taking the pods and using the Force and just throwing them, the Senate pods. Like, it just shows he doesn't care about, he only cares about himself. He doesn't care about anything else in this galaxy except his own power and self-aggrandizement. So I just think that was beautifully done. And, of course, the epic battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan, and, you are my brother, Anakin. I loved you. And I hate you. I just think that was such a great, it's so iconic. And, I saw I took Emily to see it last year again for the 20. I'm wearing my 25th anniversary. Revenge of the Sith. You can't really see it on the screen, but seeing it again on the big screen, it was a little more. It was definitely more powerful after seeing it for 20 years just on TV. I enjoyed it even more. I think this is a great film, great Star Wars film.
Yeah.
I had this chat back and forth with Brick Artemis, and he was asking like a poll on his channel, like, what's a better film, Episode 3 or A New Hope? And I'm gonna go further down in this. I think A New Hope is a better film because it's a film classic. You wouldn't have any Star Wars, but I almost kind of enjoy watching this movie more. So I can see why you would enjoy watching this more.
Yeah,
because New Hope's a little bit of a slower film. Right. I think from start to finish, this is an awesome film.
Gotcha.
I'm sure I'll have
Moose,
more to
you agree?
add, but I'll toss the other guys.
Moose, go ahead. You agree on that, or do you think
well,
otherwise?
I rank Episode 3 higher than 4, and number 4 in my list. He's like Episode 3 is like number 3, and sometimes I've even been better than A New Hope, up to the point. But Empire, is the king of them all. Then maybe A New Hope, and then Episode 3, I think it holds up because I think there's too much cloying baby stuff in Jedi. Like with all the Ewoks and stuff like that. This is how many PG-13 Star Wars movies are there? One. I don't know how many. How much were and the sequels? What were the sequels rated?
I think they're PG-13.
I think. Well, I think that's just a blanket thing back by that time.
Yeah.
I don't know. But this is a decent movie. And there's some depth to it. As far as I'm concerned, more so than Phantom Menace. That's baby shit. That should have been rated G, if anything. But a little bit of some violence, I guess. They can't get away with it. But overall, there's no adult mentality in the first one, and there's a little bit in the second one. But this is grown up Star Wars Episode 3. And,
I think Lucas. We talked. I've been talking a lot about like whether we liked a child Anakin, and you mentioned like the grown up versus like child Star Wars. I think Lucas's point. I don't. You can agree or disagree with it, but I think Lucas's vision for why he did the prequels the way he did with a child's version of Anakin first, and then how he did Attack of the Clones is he wanted to show an innocent Anakin Skywalker and a more innocent, simpler galaxy before he got to the heartbreak of Revenge of the Sith and the fall of the Jedi, and where we got to the point of a New Hope, where the galaxy was in the crapper. I think that was his idea. Whether you think he executed it well is a different story, but that was his vision.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that, Moose? Episode 3.
that's the most anticipated one that I want to watch again. I'm just like reluctantly watching, Episode 1 and 2. Just to remind myself what was going on. The storyline and the everything that was going up to it. But and I haven't watched any of the Clone Wars, so I guess I don't know if I'm missing out. How much I'm missing out. Do I miss? I'm not missing anything really, because it doesn't affect Episode 3 enough to really make me want to go see it. Like what do I need to see? Out of the Clone Wars, because it doesn't have that much of an effect. Anything on Episode 3. So, I think Lucas needed a couple of movies under his belt to start realizing what the potential could be, and then he said, I think I've done enough. I'm done enough. I'm going to give this away. I'm going to sell this off. Because he was still thinking after a while, like, do I really want to do all this for the rest of my life? Nah, I got other things I want to do. That's why he sold it off. After this, I think he reached the pinnacle of this, getting this done, and everything else would be just like, a coda to his, this, because I don't think he wanted to get involved, with the sequels at all. If he did, I think reluctantly he did because of what they did do, like just bad,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, to your point earlier, right? I think episode 1 and 2 were his warm ups, and then,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, I'll say it now. This was like my best, my best of the like my favorite of the trilogy, right? Because kind of process of elimination, but yeah, and I agree. I agree with you in that aspect, Moose. Blue, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I don't know if you said what. Oh, okay. Yeah, thoughts. Do you feel the same way on episode 3? Is this your favorite, or where do you rank it? And your thoughts on episode 3?
Um, yeah, I think this is probably the best film of the prequel trilogy. Um, as, as far as lightsaber battles go, of course it's more mature, so it's probably the most liked, and you see Anakin's uh, actual fall to the dark side now, and um, like I said, the lightsaber battles are fantastic. The introduction to General Grievous is super cool. I mean, sadly you see the weaker the weaker version because he got crushed in the animated version, but he was still kind of still a menacing character. Um, do I think it's better than Episode 4? No. Um, I think I'd rather watch Episode 4. I do dig this movie very much. Like I said, do I think it's the best? I do like that they delve into more Anakin Obi-Wan's kind of relationship and the fall between Anakin and Obi-Wan. Of course, that's one of the most important relationships in it. And yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, you guys touched on the relationship, and we touched on this earlier, right? That bond that develops between Obi-Wan and Anakin. You kind of see it more here develop, and I noticed it. And the acting too is stepped up, and again, that's kind of expected, right? You have these actors who are coming back for the third one, and they've been working together for this long, and so you would presume that it would gotten better in their relationship behind the scenes, like how well they work together, like would develop as well and come across now in the movie. And so I kind of saw that in the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin here, even to the point to where, towards the end when they are fighting, and then, Obi-Wan takes the high ground and he kind of goes into his speech where, you were the chosen one, I loved you, like that. When I went back and saw this again in preparation for this stream, that still got me teary-eyed, man, because you can feel Obi-Wan's like his hurt, man, his whole like how crushed he was. And then even building up to that, right before, when he saw the Jedi Temple footage and seeing Anakin wipe out all the younglings, just after after he went to the dark, or even before that, so seeing when he became Darth Vader, right after what happened, and he becomes a Sith, Sidious's apprentice, and everything after that, right? You just kind of see like he's like, I have to know, and he sees that, and he's like, he's just so disappointed. But I think at that point, he's still not. Maybe he's in somewhat of denial because he's not as hurt. You can kind of tell he's not as disappointed, or maybe he's just focused on the mission too. He's like, okay, we still have to go to Mustafar to stop him, to stop Anakin, and before he hurts anybody else. And so he goes there, and he's all business, and then he does this thing. He's like, I will do what I must, and Anakin says the same, or he says, you will try. No, Anakin's like, I will do what I must, and I think Obi-Wan's the one that says you will try, or vice versa. No, yeah, it was the other way around. Anakin says you will try. Sorry, I'm getting confused. But either way, regardless, yeah, they build up, and then again cut back to where Obi-Wan just cuts off his limbs, Anakin's limbs, and it's just that whole dialogue between the two. You feel that one, at least I did. I felt it, and so I think they did a good job of kind of establishing and building up to that. And also going back to Anakin being further pushed to the dark side, you kind of see more of a rebellious resistance in him, right? There's a couple of scenes where he's like, why? It's not fair. He kind of speaks up. He kind of claps back, basically. And then, Mace Windu, at some point, he's looked at him. He goes like, what? Like, take your seat, type of thing. He tells him to like sit his ass down, basically. And Samuel L. Jackson speaks, sit your ass down, Anakin. Yeah. And then Obi-Wan also, he kind of was there a certain scene where Obi-Wan was just like, what? Like he kind of was like caught off guard because Anakin's starting to speak up and push back more. And we kind of it's a buildup, right? Obviously, it was a buildup from the previous 2 episodes, and so I think they did a good job of kind of having that buildup. Granted, you need to. It hits harder if you saw episode 1 and 2, but in here, I think it's like that culmination again, and it's just overall, right? This is the birth of Darth Vader, right? He's dubbed as such by Sidious all the way up to the end, and this is what a lot of Star Wars fans were hoping and expecting to see, right? This is what they were looking forward to, right? We see from the introduction of Darth Vader in A New Hope, episode 4, and then carry on 5 and 6, one of the most iconic villains of all time. And even me, I was like, man, I wonder what this guy's backstory is. Why is he Darth Vader? How did he get here? And if nothing else, right, this is as dubbed afterwards, like the Skywalker saga. This is Anakin Skywalker's journey in this prequel, and we see that whole his from childhood to him becoming Vader, and then finally when we see that scene at the end, and he just has the mask on after he's burned, and it's a slow motion too. It's like George Lucas knows, and by the way, written and directed by George Lucas. Sorry, I did confirm. I went back and it was just written by George Lucas. So yeah, slowly the mask comes down. And it's silence. There's no music, right? It's just an awesome scene. There's just like some smoke in the background. It clicks in, and then all of a sudden you hear that iconic breathing sound. That like, oh man, that was just awesome. That was just well done, executed very well. It was so cool, man. It's just that there. I think a lot of people, specifically me, I was just that's it right there. This is how we got here. We finally got to that moment. I don't know. Do you guys remember how you felt when you saw that scene? When he finally put on the mask in that suit,
that was incredible. Like you hear like this kind of a softer version of the Imperial March, and dubbed kind of Vader's theme, and where is Padme? He says, it seems in your anger you killed her. No, she was alive. I felt it.
No.
That was
that moment. I will say so that moment kind of killed it for me though. When he yelled no, I was like, oh man, that's like too cliche. Like,
they could have done that a little better. Yeah.
We all agree. Palpatine killed Padme, right?
Well, no, she died giving birth.
Anakin killed her. I mean, you can say she died in childbirth, but I think Anakin. I mean, like that one droid's like
Palpatine did something to her. It would have been a better story if he did that. Like he was like sending evil vibes to her or something like that. They make her sick. And with the
I don't
pregnancy.
think that's not what happened.
No, I think. I mean, they even say as much, right? She's lost the will to live from broken heart, basically, right? Because she went to Mustafar, and her and Anakin were kind of yelling, and even Obi-Wan also says like, "You brought this on yourself, right?" He's like, "You turned her against." He's like, "I turned her. Yeah, you brought this on yourself, basically." And so I think it was just it was all Anakin basically, and he was just in denial though that he couldn't have done that.
But I think, but he needed her. Palpatine needed her dead because without her being dead, he had a love in his life. And a Sith can't have love. There's no love in a Sith's life.
Well, a Jedi, could, either. But I don't think Palpatine needed to do anything. I think all he needed to do was just convince Anakin, and then once that happened, I think he had an idea at least that, everything would kind of be destroyed around him because of that. Like just because his anger and his fear would take care of everything else. So I think the only thing Palpatine was focused on was just getting Anakin to join him, which he did. Yeah.
Well, just a couple things on that. I think that scene when Vader, he awakens and he's full Vader. He's in that suit, and Palpatine, Palpatine. There's just like this shit-eating grin on Palpatine. Like this is Palpatine's best day ever. He's achieved total domination of the galaxy. He's destroyed most of the Jedi, and he's silenced his critics, and now his apprentice has fully turned. He's having it's a great day to be Palps. I thought that was great. Now in terms of I thought it was an interesting thing. I didn't quite see this, notice this, the first couple times I've seen it, but, the last few years I've noticed that when Palpatine goes to Mustafar to retrieve what's left of Anakin. There's like this interesting scene where he kind of bends down and he puts his hand like a heal, like a force healing, on Anakin, but it's like there's almost there's an affection there that it seems to me. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I don't think I am. That the way it's played, that there's an affection for this kid that Palpatine has.
Or he needed him. He needed him. He needed him that bad because he knew how powerful he was.
Yeah.
It could have been affection, but I think it was.
I think it's both.
Him.
Yeah, I totally agree in that. The other thing we didn't really talk about in Attack of the Clones, but obviously at the very, very end of the film, Obi-Wan brings Luke to Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. They're introduced in Attack of the Clones, and that was kind of like a surprise to me because I don't know if it was like in one of the adaptations of the original trilogy. I think it was or maybe it was some other novel. That I always thought that Uncle Owen was Obi-Wan's brother, not a stepbrother to Anakin. So I thought that was interesting that they were very. Joel Edgerton, who's since become a really good actor. He had a very small role, obviously no wars, no dialogue in Revenge of the Sith. But small role in being Uncle Owen in the prequels.
Yeah, real quick, I'll touch on that, and I'll throw it over to Blue to get his thoughts on the whole Vader scene. But I was kind of confused on that too. But then again, going back and watching it, you see that Lars, right? Lars, no, what's his? I'm already forgetting this thing, but the guy who ended up marrying Shmi, right? He has a son.
Lars, yeah.
Lars. What was his first name? Like the last name was Lars. Right? I forget his the first name.
Klieg Lars.
Klieg? Yeah. So now, going back to original or New Hope, Luke is calling his Uncle Owen, right? So I'm like, is that? I always thought, is that actually his uncle, or is he just calling because he was raised by him? But then we find out here in Revenge of the Sith that Shmi and Lars's son is Anakin's half brother, right? So they share the same mother basically, but different dads, and so like his is like his half brother, and so I
think they're stepbrother. I don't think they're half. I think he says in Attack of the Clones, Klieg, when they bury Shmi, before that actually when they come to the Lars homestead, I think he says something about his first wife or something like that.
Oh, okay. So they're brothers by marriage then, not by. I thought Shmi and the other. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
step.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Step. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I think he did say that actually. You're right. So that kind of revealed that. You're right in Attack of the Clones. Okay. Blue. What were your thoughts on that whole Vader scene and that when we finally get to that point where we see Anakin as a true Darth Vader form in his gear and his and he puts on that helmet.
I thought it was awesome. Finally see how he donned the suit. Like the no kind of took it out. But everything up to that was like super cool. Like having the helmet put on and super cool.
Yeah. No, for sure. And then going back to you guys touched on this already, but give my thoughts on the fight scene between Mace and Sidious. That, and I mentioned this in other streams in various streams, but Sidious is probably the closest thing we will get to horror as of now, and as of this stream in horror, right? So Sidious is the closest thing we'll get to something horror related in Star Wars, unless they do a horror themed either movie or show or something like a spinoff. But yeah, I mean, he comes off creepy and scary, and like that. No more so in that particular scene, right? And it's just I kind of like. Not because it's cringy, but I cringe because of like it kind of like just like there's like this uncomfortableness to it, just how he is and how evil is, and how he's like manipulating Anakin, and then just how he's yelling and forcing him, and then Anakin, we all know, just cuts off Mace Windu's hand, and in cold blood, Palpatine just shocks him and throws him out the Mace Windu out the window. It's like, damn, that's just like cold right there. It's just like hard, pure evil, and it's just disturbing. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, to this day, it's just like, oh damn, it's a little hard to watch. I would say a little hard to watch. I mean, and I'm a horror fan, but like that, it's just the acting, and it goes back to what Adam was saying, like Ian McDiarmid's, like his portrayal, like how evil it was, I think was just really really came across in that scene. And you kind of feel, I kind of see where Anakin was coming from, right? Because he was trying to do what he thought was right. Granted, he wanted to learn from Palpatine and aka Sidious, and seeing what he could. He was curious, right? But he still turned him in, right? He's like, Chancellor Palpatine, he's the Sith that we were looking for, and so he's trying to. There's some conflict, but he's still trying to do what's right. And he's even telling Mace, what are you doing? Don't kill him. He needs to stand a trial. So I think that's like part of the motivation is he wants to keep him alive to talk to him, but also like I think he's still trying to do the right thing. And then when Mace is like, no, we need to kill him now. I can kind of see where Anakin was coming from in that point. It was just like, I guess I think they just did a good job, and the writing part of it in that aspect was really interesting there, and how like it's like, damn, what would you do in that situation, right? It's like, what would I do if I was in that situation? So it's just tough. That's how it's good writing. It's like, if you don't not sure yourself, at least for me specifically, how you would approach that, or what you would do if you were that person, that character. So let me see here. So that, and then again, ultimately, this was touched on, the chosen one, right? Anakin was the chosen one. Another question that came to me, that I don't know if there's different interpretations of this, or if some people see it differently, or if it's unanimous. But do you think Anakin was a chosen one to bring balance to the Force? Like, was he the one, as the prophecy said, or do you think it was somebody else? I don't know. Adam, what are your thoughts on that?
I do, because the idea, I guess that the prophecy is not necessarily that it's a good thing for the Jedi. He brought balance to the Force, so he destroyed the Jedi, and at that point there were two Sith, the Master and the Apprentice, and and then at the end he redeemed his son, redeemed him. He redeemed himself when he saw his son, and he ultimately destroyed Palpatine.
Yeah.
So it was his son's love that got him to turn back.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That's a good point about the whole bringing balance to the Force, even if it meant like the Jedi were overpowered and like more in favor. If it was heading to that side, I didn't think about that. I don't know, Moose. What do you think? Do you agree with that, or do you think something differently about Anakin being the chosen one and fulfilling his prophecy?
Well, I mean, he didn't fill any prophecy. He only filled half of it or something like that to get it going. But I think, first of all, I think Mace Windu died like a sack of shit. Okay, I mean, he threw him out the window. What should have happened, maybe, in terms of direction, like Palpatine should have somehow snapped his neck, to basically wound him enough that he couldn't do anything that that would be able to. I mean, the Jedi can control gravity, can't they? I mean, he fell out of a giant skyscraper, sure, but I mean, you see, and Obi-Wan, he's jumping down from a couple of stories into Grievous's place, and he kind of he didn't hurt himself or anything like that. Why couldn't a Mace Windu done something like that if he's fully had his full faculties as a Jedi? But
he's missing a hand, right? He just got his hand chopped off.
Well, I know, but he should have, his neck should have been broken. He should have been unconscious before he fell out the window, I think. So that he couldn't function. I mean, he still could have even with a missing hand, he still could have levitated. Use the Force to levitate himself. I lost my thing here.
I don't know about that one.
So,
Do you think Anakin fulfilled his prophecy though? It sounds like you
well,
don't
it
think he
didn't
did.
take. It took him 3 movies to get him to, for that to happen.
Yeah,
You
it's a
know?
long game. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I lost my
Blue,
life.
what about you? Do you agree with what Adam was saying, or what how Moose interprets that, or what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think the prophecy ever specified a time,
Yeah.
when he was going to bring balance. I do think Anakin brought balance to the Force after killing
He killed
the
Palpatine.
Emperor. Yeah,
Yeah.
um,
Okay. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
He fulfilled that prophecy for sure.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. I think okay, yeah, that's what I kind of was thinking the whole time too. But Moose, I'm gonna put you on mute here for a second while you clear that cough there. So just go ahead and free from and you unmute when you're ready. Yeah, but that's what I kind of had in mind too. It's like I think a lot of people were, the whole build up to Anakin being the chosen one, but at the end of episode 3 it becomes obviously Darth Vader, right? So we're like, okay, what the hell, what happened to this whole prophecy thing? But I think by then, or even like the younger generation, you forget that in Return of the Jedi, yeah, he did. I think it seems like within this panel that he did fulfill that in killing Emperor Palpatine, like Vader killed Palpatine at the end, and then that I think was meant to be the prophecy. Although, I know Yoda and others, they couldn't tell, like it was clouded his path, because I guess they couldn't see up to after a certain point, and so, but yeah, that's just how I took it as well. Like he did fulfill it, but it wasn't until Return of the Jedi that he did that. So yeah, I was just curious on how others saw that as well. Let's see. So there's that, and then the last point. Maybe I just touched on that too, but maybe I just answered my own question. But do you think Yoda at some point knew that Vader would eventually betray Palpatine, even though I just said like up to a certain point it was clouded? But I think there was a point in the movie where even after Vader, I think it was towards the end when Yoda had to go into exile. I can't remember if there was a point where it seemed like Yoda was trying to, I presume, like look in the future. So I don't know if he kind of had an idea, and I think didn't he actually even touch on the fact that there was he was there. He was aware that Luke and Leia were born, right? He was there for their birth, and so I wonder if I can't remember if he hinted at implying that they could be a redemption, or there's still hope, I guess, for them. I don't know. Do you guys recall, or what are your guys thoughts on that, on Yoda?
He did say only you must confront Vader, and only then will you be a Jedi. And
Okay.
he didn't say, when he said I think we thought confront Vader, fight him, and they did fight for a bit, but I don't necessarily think he meant kill him.
Right, for sure.
Confront him, and he confronted him. He confronted him with, ultimately, Luke confronted Vader with love.
Yes. I agree.
And that love is what turned, and Luke's surrender. He didn't surrender, but he putting down his lightsaber. And saying, no, I'm a Jedi like my father before me. That's right. What. And then when he saw Palpatine using the Force lightning on Luke and torturing him, and just a glee that Palpatine was having, kind of like the glee that he had when Vader, when he fully became Vader in the suit.
Yeah.
He looked at his hand and he realized that, what have I done? As he says after he helps
Palpatine take out Mace Windu. Yeah. But do you think Yoda knew that more or less the events that were going to take place into the Jedi? Do you think Yoda knew that here in episode 3, like towards the end of episode 3?
I'm not sure.
I think Vader probably weakened himself over the course of the melt to him that kind of helped him get die. He had to use a lot of psychic or force energy to protect himself against Palpatine, to cover up any kind of possible intention of how can a Sith protect him, hide something that they want to, kill the emperor, or kill the, his master. You have to be able to hide that very well, and he had to learn how to do that. I'm sure he spent a lot of energy, and it probably weakened him, toward the end.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, you think Anakin was hiding?
You figured eventually Palpatine would feel it, that motherfucker's gonna betray me. Pardon my French, that guy's gonna betray me. I know he is. And it was written on the wall. I'm surprised in a way that he was trying to get Luke to be his new apprentice. He was trying to get him to confer because he was more powerful.
Yeah.
But he also, shame on Palpatine. He should have another fallback plan. How about another one? He should have had another guy, who show up.
He
imagine.
Probably did.
I don't know, but
knowing him, he's a planner, though.
The other, the Sith, a hope for the Sith.
Somehow Palpatine returned. So
yeah,
whatever.
he had buildup, right? He was like manipulating Anakin for a while. So I think, and then him being the planner, I'm sure he had a backup plan too, right? Because there was a couple of times where I would think, like, what happens if Mace did kill Sidious? Like, he was relying heavily on Anakin to interfere and save him, and to be able to kill. Like, looked like if Anakin didn't do anything, I'm pretty sure Palpatine would have died right there just from electrocution, right? He was just like, he had nothing else, and Mace was clearly more powerful than Palpatine and Sidious. So, and I don't know if it's because Sidious was holding back so Anakin can interfere. I don't know, but I don't think. I think if Sidious just would have kept on going, he would have died. So he was placing all his bets on Anakin to interfere in that regard. So I'm pretty sure with that, there had to be some backup plan, I'm guessing. Or I guess, having said that, if not, then he probably just would have died. But yeah, go ahead, Adam. What were you gonna say?
I think to your question, did Yoda know at the end of Episode 3? I don't think so. I think that Yoda was. I get the sense from Yoda that he felt defeated, and that the only options that he saw was for him and Obi-Wan to go into hiding and to ensure that Luke and Leia were kept secret and safe from the clutches of Palpatine. And that let's just regroup, let's meditate and commune with the Force. That he did realize he can contact, which seems like that's a new thing for him, a new thing for the Jedi, to communicate with the dead, and that he was able to communicate with Qui-Gon, and maybe he saw that connection with the Force as a way to regroup and let's keep these two safe. They're the children of the chosen one, and maybe one day, if they're safe, we can try to restore peace,
balance,
and justice in the galaxy.
Yeah. What about you, Blue? Do you think Yoda kind of at least had an idea or saw what was coming, and that there was redemption for Vader in the end? You there? There you are.
I don't know. I mean, maybe he believed in the prophecy,
Yeah.
Maybe it probably had something to do with his kids. He always he could never see the dark side, though, so it was always clouded with the Jedi. But maybe he believed that through his kids he could be redeemed at some point.
Yeah.
As far as seeing it, it's possible.
Yeah, I agree. I think there was some sort of hope, like he had some sort of light or opportunity, that there was still opportunity, like there was probably still some good. I mean, it probably, to what Adam mentioned earlier, like they would develop, through episode 4, 5, and 6, or even between then, even between episode 3 and 4, like the more, I guess, Yoda was there in kind of exile and he was training himself or kind of reconnecting and reevaluating things, I think he started to see more and more. And then probably communicating with Obi-Wan, like while he was watching Luke, right, to see like how he would eventually potentially help in Anakin restoring balance to the Force. So that seems, I think I seem to agree with that. I think it seems to kind of be like a gradual type of thing. And then to touch on what your point here, I'll kind of mention this, and then we'll start wrapping up here. Yeah, it was surprising to see Yoda kind of give up so quickly. I know he did put up a fight, right? Him and Sidious, and their initial showdown when Yoda walked into the to Chancellor's office, and I was kind of like one of those like, huh, those Bert, when Palpatine just like took him out immediately with his Force lightning, and I don't know, that's just because again Yoda Sidious caught Yoda off guard or what, but I don't know. But you feel like Yoda was already aware that he was a Sith, so he should have been ready, because Yoda had no problem fighting Dooku, right? When Dooku used his Force lightning on him, and Yoda kind of just grabbed it and captured it. So I don't know if there's like a writing inconsistency there. I know I'm kind of nerding out here, but that's what we're here for. We're talking Star Wars here. So it just was a little surprising to me that Sidious took out Palpatine so quickly, or maybe his Force lightning was just that much more powerful. I don't know, but regardless, they were kind of fighting and doing their thing, and then they kind of both use their Force powers. They get pushed back. Yoda falls, and then he just kind of leaves. He doesn't keep fighting. So I thought that was kind of odd. I don't know if there was some reasoning behind that, or he was just that weakened, or he just knew he was that overpowered because he couldn't sense the dark side, like Blue kind of touched on. It was just so clouded that Sidious did a good job of hiding how strong he was, I guess. Maybe that was it. I don't know. It's just so yeah, I don't know. But then that kind of then leads the way to Yoda going to the Dagobah system, and then being there until Luke stumbles upon him, which could be maybe that was part of his plan too, to eventually just stay there until Luke is ready, and Luke seeks his way to find him. And so that was there's a whole lot of aspect to that too. And then last. Sorry, I just remember there's one more thing. Listening to what Adam brought up. Adam, you brought up the further training with Obi-Wan, and Yoda tells Obi-Wan, go to Tatooine. There, an old friend you will meet in Obi-Wan guesses Qui-Gon, right? So he's like, hey, your former master, basically. I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically learned how to live
in the
forever,
netherworld
right?
of the Force.
Yeah, and so like to them, it's all up for interpretation. To the Jedi, that's their version of living forever. It's just kind of becoming this like being in the Force. I presume like an outline, like we see Obi-Wan in Empire Strikes Back, right? How he comes in that ghost form. So I presume Qui-Gon is the first to do that. I don't know if it's like in actually that form or just a voice, but and they never. I thought they touched on that at some point. But that kind of seems like a good series of shows. I can't remember in the show Obi-Wan if they just touch on it, or if they actually show Obi-Wan training with Qui-Gon, but or if that's in the comics or something.
They show in the TV show, they show him trying to communicate, trying to contact, and Obi-Wan is just broken and
okay, he calls for him, right?
And so the whole point, I guess, of that show is him trying to find his mojo again. And and at the end of the show, Qui-Gon does come back and as a Force ghost, and they clearly for the next, because it's like 10 years before A New Hope, and then for the next 10 years they clearly are continue to communicate and train.
Does time go slower in that realm?
Yeah. Can I just say?
But Obi-Wan has spent 100 years there.
Yeah, can I just say about the Yoda thing? I think there's a line in Return of the Jedi that Yoda says to Luke, don't underestimate the powers of the Emperor. And I think that's pretty consistent, because he clearly underestimated his powers and he got his butt kicked.
That's true, yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, and then here we have Cole Hupka. Thank you for joining, first and foremost, but adding, Qui-Gon's Force goes to the end of Obi-Wan. Okay, thanks for confirming. I had forgot about that. It's been a minute since I've seen it, so I had forgotten that part of it. But thanks, Adam and Cole, for chiming in on that. Anyone got any final thoughts here as we close on episode 3, or just overall the prequel trilogy in general? If not, that was again, awesome. The build up, I know, again, we have our highs and lows for this the prequel trilogy, but overall, like the I think the Vader, the story of Vader Anakin probably could be summarized, but just that whole culmination, just being a part of that history there was just awesome to see finally. And we have some questions answered, but then some more questions that came up, right? So I'm sure they can expand more on some of the lore here and do some spin-offs and things like that. So yeah, but
To
ladies
me,
and yeah, go
to
ahead.
me, these have aged better than some of them, like I thought they would. And then the other thing I would just, my thought is, this got me, the prequel trilogy got me into collecting toys again. And like, I don't collect the 3 3/4 inch Hasbro anymore. I got Legends for what, or I did get Marvel Legends, but I got Black Series. I don't get those. Like now it's, Hot Toys, except for some other one-off type things or Transformers. And so this definitely, since '97, since the special editions came out, I've been and hypercharged with the prequels. I haven't, stopped collecting.
Yeah, same. I think here and there are certain aspects, right? And we touched on this earlier. The clones, man, the clones. There's people who just collect clone figures, 1/12 and 1/6, and just like that. Yeah, there's like a market there. The
Mario
is coming in. Yeah, yep. Shout out to El Profesoro. Yeah, Mario. Yep. But yeah, anyone got anything else?
No.
All right. Well,
I had something- I
ladies
had
and
a-
gentlemen,
I had
yeah.
just in my head. So. Oh no, I can't forget about it. Okay.
No, it's all right. Don't. It's all right, Moose. It's all right.
My brain
I know
tired.
this was a long one.
3
Yeah.
hours.
No, this was a
I'm a little
long one,
fatigued.
but we got through it. We got through it though. Yes. Star Wars talk. You're like, we kind of just let it. I wanted to just let it flow and let it go. So a lot to discuss here with fellow fans and those of you who are watching and tuned in here and there. Appreciate it. Thank you for following along. And even if it's not through the whole thing, again, I know it's a long one, but I will put timestamps in the description below. So if you want to go to a certain movie and just hear our thoughts about one of the movies, feel free to do that as well. So that'll make it easier to kind of watch it in chunks and not all at once. But thank you again, panelists. Appreciate your time. Again, I know this is a long one. I'll have their links in the description below. So if you want to check out their content and support them in any way, I'm sure they would appreciate that. So yeah, go show them some love. I'll do that here after this stream. And then of course I have my Feezys Media channel. Subscribe or sign up for the notifications if you want to see more content. Either TV show, movies, video games, or my Feezys Figures channel. Link in the description below if you want to see more of my content that focuses on collectibles and action figures, 1/12, 1/6, and things like that. But before we jump off, any of you want to shout out or plug anything aside from what I just mentioned?
1/6 Moosketeers on Facebook.
No, thanks, Feezy.
Yep.
Go ahead, Blue.
I'll put that. Yeah, go Blue.
Oh yeah, thanks for the invite. It's always fun to talk about Star Wars in any capacity.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate the invites, and may the Force be with you.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, may the Force be with you all. Yep. Well, with that, enjoy the rest of your week, enjoy the rest of your day, and take care. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and jump to light speed and warp out of here. See ya. Take care all.